Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile tiny shells, drifting in the foam. You see, that song is from Avatar: The Last Airbender, as you may or may not remember, sung by Uncle Iroh. And it, much like my rendition of it, much like the movie, is a piss poor adaptation of the original source.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is connected.
You're right.
What's up, everybody?
Gotta warn me.
No, I don't. Once again, I do wish this was a video podcast, because I wish that your just like dumbfounded facial expression was on
if
record.
Only. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to That Wannabe Film Class, where we love movies. So each month we choose a movie. This is all wrong. I've said all of this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Every word. Amazing.
I see.
Everything I just said is wrong. Welcome to That Wannabe Film Class, the show where we love movies. So each month we choose a theme, and our members bring one movie that fits the theme for us to talk about. Maybe it's a movie they love. Maybe it's a movie they've been dying to see. Maybe it's a movie they just find interesting. Chloe. Hello.
Ben. Hi.
So, as you know, in our last month, we had a theme built around our favorite movies. Now, technically, that month was the month of May. However, we started it 1 week early, accidentally, because we were like, haha, chaos episode.
True.
So we now have an extra week in the month of May to do what we want. We could have done another favorite movie. We didn't. Here we are. So this episode is going to lead into our next month, in fact. However, we are not calling it part of that. We are calling this our special episode. What are we talking about during our special episode? I'm glad you asked, audience, who, again, definitely knows, because there's a title description when you start watching this or listening to this podcast. What?
Nobody definitely asked.
No one definitely asked. But we're going with it anyway. We're talking about The Last Airbender. To be clear, we are not talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Although we will talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender at length, because this is frankly just an excuse to talk about that show. But technically speaking, the way we're leading into this conversation, at the very least, is a discussion about M. Night Shyamalan's live action film adaptation of The Last Airbender. So called because it came out a year after Avatar, the Blue People movie, so he couldn't use the name Avatar, which frankly I feel sorry for him about, because that kind of sucks.
Just a bit.
I'm Ben Bellevue, and I am joined by the villain vixen, the supervillain seducer, the asshole apologist, the macaroni mistress, the damsel who may or may not be in distress, but it's okay because she's handling it, Chloe Naylor.
Still love it. So great.
I forget who added the macaroni mistress. It was one of our friends. Was it Khaled?
I think it was Ian, because we were all in a Discord call and I was making macaroni and cheese at like 2 a.m.
Yeah. That does sound like an Ian-ass joke as well.
It does.
I feel like Ian and Khaled have similar brands of humor.
Oh, 100%. Smooth brain central over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Chloe, we're talking about The Last Airbender.
Unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately. I had not seen this movie. I'd seen 5 minutes of this movie and then decided this is bad and not watched the rest. So I'd made it 10 years from this movie's release without ever seeing it. And originally, when we were talking about what to do for this episode, we were like, oh, what if we just talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender? And we can call it like That Wannabe TV Class or something. We can just say fuck it to movies for a week.
Yeah.
And then I stupidly was like, hey, what if we watch The Last Airbender as an excuse to talk about the show, but then we can also still tie it into movie, so we're not technically breaking what our show is. And you were like, I don't know. Then I'd have to watch it. And I was like, you know, I've never seen it. I will defer to you. You make the decision. And you said, let's watch it.
Because I thrive on chaos and making people suffer, Ben.
Look, so do I. But halfway through that movie, I texted you, as you know. And I was like, why did you do this? Because I expected a level of like mediocre to bad with this movie. I expected that maybe this movie would fall into that like that little middle ground of like so bad it's good, or at the very least like so bad you can easily laugh at it, like Geostorm. Geostorm is not a good movie, nor do I ever want to watch Geostorm again. But I can sit there and make fun of it, and it's fun. This movie doesn't have that. This movie's just bad. It's like there's tiers of badness, and you have like, well, it starts with good, obviously, and then you have like a kind of mediocre bad movie where it's not terrible or offensive. It's just like there's nothing there, and you don't care, and you're like, I don't like this. And then you have like so bad it's good, where you're like, okay, you're so bad in such a way that I enjoy watching you because it's stupid. The rooms of the film universe. And then you have this.
Yeah.
Why does this exist?
I don't know.
So you've seen it before. When did you see it? Was it like one time you saw it and then refused to ever watch it again? And then I brought this before you and now you've had to experience it for a second time. Give me the lowdown.
I saw it in theaters. My whole family.
I'm so sorry.
You almost did
I'm so sorry.
Take.
Yep.
Cause my whole family, we are like diehard Avatar Last Airbender fans.
Sure.
We were like, okay, the movie looks bad, but we're such huge fans, we just have to go see it.
Right.
Oh,
That was a bad decision you made there.
Was, absolutely. We still make fun of it to this day. But God.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think every decision in that movie, almost every decision at the very least in that movie, is capable of being made fun of, which I feel bad about because making a movie is hard. However,
come on.
When you're basing it off of a source material that already exists, and I'm not saying that adapting something's easy, but there's so many decisions made in this movie that don't need to be made. There are changes that don't need to be changed. And I realize, oh, you're cutting this movie down to a movie length out of a 20 episode story. I get that.
Right.
But there are so many decisions made that don't need to be made.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
And like, I guess we'll get into it in a second. But before we do, let's talk very briefly about our crew. Now, for audiences, this episode is not going to go the way we normally go. I didn't do heavy research about the crew because I don't care. And we're not going to do a full recap because we also don't care.
Nope.
And also because like, frankly, it's just the TV show, but worse. So we'll talk about like what happens in this movie a little bit casually. We'll talk about what we hate about it a lot.
Yes.
And then we'll get to the real meat and potatoes of this episode. The important stuff, the TV show.
Of course.
Yeah. But let's talk about the crew very briefly. We, of course, have director / writer / producer M. Night Shyamalan, which might not be how to pronounce his last name, because who fucking knows how to pronounce his last name? No one. No one in this world. Chloe, do you know much about M. Night Shyamalan? Have you seen any of his other movies?
Whack movies. I know that I have. The only one that comes to mind is The Happening for some reason.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's a thing that happened.
Sure did.
I didn't mean for that to be a joke. I didn't mean for that to be a joke. I didn't mean for that to be a pun. It genuinely is a thing that happened.
Yeah, it happened in The Happening.
Yeah.
What else?
He made his career got kicked off with The Sixth Sense, which is also considered by most to be like his best movie. He did Unbreakable, I think, right after that, which is also considered pretty good. Bruce Willis is in it, I think.
Yeah.
And like Samuel L. Jackson, and Bruce Willis is a superhero.
Right.
And they did a bunch of other things that were less well regarded, such as Signs, where the alien's weakness is water.
Yeah.
They came to a planet that is 75% water, and their weakness is water.
It's fine.
And then he did The Village, where, if I remember correctly, the twist is it's not actually set in the past. It's just a community where they think they live in the past.
Okay.
He really likes his twists.
He does.
That's the thing he kind of does in everything. They rarely work. It's what made him famous with The Sixth Sense. I've never seen The Sixth Sense. However,
me neither.
I read the script for The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
So I know what happens, and I know the narrative flow of it. So I can't say that I have like the perfect image of that movie, but I do have the general sense of it as if you read a book to a degree. I don't like The Sixth Sense. Like, it's not bad. I think it's decent.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has much going for it other than that twist. I don't even think the twist is like the right decision for the character. I think there's a much more interesting story to be told if you didn't have it built around that twist. But I do get why people were like, shit, twist.
Crazy.
He was dead the whole time.
What?
Crazy.
Spoilers. Wow.
Yeah. He made the After Earth, the abysmal movie with Will Smith and Will Smith's son.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he, of course, made this. And then he made Split, the movie where James McAvoy is like 50 personalities.
Right.
And that was a secret sequel to Unbreakable. And then he made Glass. Split was relatively well received. I don't like it. I think it's bad. And Unbreakable was worse received. So his track record, rough.
Yeah, not great.
But I've heard some say that this is his worst movie. And I can't imagine it not being.
I mean, yeah. This is about as low as you can get.
It's quite bad. We have Noah Ringer as Aang, or as they say in this movie, for some reason,
Why?
Ong. Part of me wants to use the names given by this movie when referring to them, because I refuse to associate them with the actual characters. And part of me refuses to actually say those words.
They're terrible.
They're terrible.
Oh, bad. Why would you change the pronunciation?
In an interview with M. Night Shyamalan, he said that it was based on like its more ethnically accurate pronunciation. And I'm like, okay, but you turned Katara, Sokka, and Aang into white people. So like, where's the ethnic accuracy there?
God, it sounds.
And this isn't just my feelings. The actor who plays Zuko in the TV show, like the voice actor, was interviewed about this, and they were like, "Oh, have you seen? Like, what do you think about the movie?" And he's like, "I haven't seen it because the creators of Avatar told me not to watch it."
Nice,
but my one thing, and he said the whole thing where he's like, movies are really hard to make because he's trying to be like appeasing. But the one thing he harped on where he's like, how can you say that saying their names wrong makes sense when you've cast white people as people of color?
Right. Jesus, there's not a single white person in that whole show. Why would you? Okay.
No, there isn't. What the fuck?
You're all Asian. Sorry, y'all.
Oh my God. And what's weird is it's not like okay, obviously I can't say with certainty if it was M. Night Shyamalan's decision or if it was like the production company's decision. But M. Night Shyamalan's Indian.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a white dude doing this.
Right. Like, what were you doing, my guy?
It could have been the producers, obviously, again.
Could have been.
I don't know. But he seems to have defended himself when he was questioned about it, which could just be him trying to appease the corporate overlords. Maybe capitalism's the real problem. But also,
as it usually is. But yeah.
I don't like the decisions that he makes.
No, I don't either.
Noah Ringer makes me like the guy who plays Anakin as a child. I'm not saying it's his fault. He could be a fine actor, or he could just be a young actor who needs to learn more about acting, which is like a thing that's fine. I've seen plenty of actors be bad as a child and become good.
Yeah.
But M. Night chose to cast him and direct him the way he did. And that performance that we got out of him makes me uncomfortable, like physically uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's, yeah. God.
Eloquence from Chloe Naylor here today.
It's just, I can't.
I like how we're one character in on this adaptation and you're already broken.
I'm already broken. This movie's just, oh man. Yeah.
Let's get to someone you might care about though, Chloe. Nicola Peltz as Katara. Nicola Peltz, of course. She is from Transformers 4, Age of Extinction. She plays the girlfriend of the driver, Shane, who is, of course, played by our actor from Sing Street, whose name I'm spacing on right now, not because he doesn't deserve recognition and clout, just because my brain's really out of it today.
Why did I completely forget his name? Why is this is bothering me? I know his name. I completely forgot his name. Why is this?
Yeah, I'm spacing on it. You're gonna go look it up?
Yes, I'm gonna go look it up because this is gonna kill me.
While you do that, I will speak. We have Jackson Rathbone as Sokka, or as they say in this movie for some fucking reason, Sokka. Which also, so Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Jack Rayner, by the way. Sorry.
Jack Rayner. Thank you. I knew it was a JR, but I could not for the life of me remember what.
No, I don't know. It's
So
like
Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yes.
Every time they said Ahsoka, my brain went to Ahsoka. Every single time. Especially because the creator of Star Wars: The Clone Wars is Dave Filoni, who's also one of the key directors on Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's just like my brain inherently links those two things.
Mm-hmm.
This is I don't know why I don't know why any of this happened.
Who knows? Who knows?
Jackson Rathbone, who played Sokka/Soka, is best known for a role in Twilight. I've never seen a Twilight movie, so I have no idea what he does in that movie. I think he's a vampire.
That's about right. Who does he play?
Jasper.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who that is, but that's his name.
Yeah.
We have Seychelle Gabriel as Princess Yue. Now, Chloe, do you know anything about Seychelle Gabriel? Because there's a fun fact about her.
I do know a couple things. I'm assuming I know what the fun fact is. I don't know if you want me to.
Okay. I would love for you to.
Okay. She plays Asami in Legend of Korra.
She does. She redeemed herself in the canon of Avatar.
Yeah. She was also in my favorite alien show growing up.
Too.
So shout out to that.
Falling Skies.
Falling Skies. Love
That's
it.
the other thing I was going to reference because I also loved that show growing up.
Oh my god, shout out.
Yeah.
I want to go back and rewatch it. Miss it.
I definitely was looking at her. I'm like, I know you're from a thing, but what thing?
Yeah.
And I looked up and it was like Falling Skies. And I was like, yeah, that show slapped.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Oh man, good times.
I feel like no one knows about Falling Skies.
I know.
I expected you not to know what I was referencing.
No, I fucking loved that show, dude.
Beautiful. That was so good. It was so fun.
Yeah.
We can talk about that on a podcast someday.
Let's do it.
I don't know how I'll justify it, but we can.
We'll talk about signs and lead into Falling Skies.
M. Night Shyamalan is just our gateway into every TV show we want to talk about.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. This is his destiny.
Yes.
The real twist is that we aren't talking about his movies.
Mm-hmm.
We have Dev Patel as Zuko. Dev Patel, of course, far too good for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
The best performance in this movie, which isn't to say it's great, because I don't think he's good casting as Zuko, but like at least his acting feels real.
Yeah. I mean, the bar is also on the floor,
else.
But yes.
Yeah, the bar is on the floor. But at least when I watched him act, I wasn't cringing. I still don't think he's a great embodiment of like who Zuko is based on the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that like the character he gave us is super interesting, but that's not really his fault.
Yeah.
Dev Patel's great. I love him dearly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited for his new movie, if it ever comes out, because quarantine has ruined cinema.
Yeah, it looked cool.
It did look cool. Finally, we have Sean Tobe as Iroh. Sean Tobe, possibly best known as Tony Stark's friend, I guess, from Iron Man 1, who's trapped with him and who dies. Jensen, that's his name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
That's him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can't really tell at all.
No.
Yeah. So, Chloe, what are your thoughts on this movie overall? Before we dive into the good stuff, what are your thoughts on this movie overall?
Garbage, dude. It's
so bad.
It's so
I'm
bad.
so confused.
How
Why?
How do you fuck up that badly? Like,
I don't know. I don't understand.
Yes, it is hard to adapt things, but it's all right there.
Yeah, and it's like there's things where you don't need to change it. Like the intro. I feel like the intro is honestly one of the best examples because the intro scene up until like them getting Aang out theoretically could be the exact same thing.
Right.
But it's not. It's worse.
Yeah?
For some reason.
Why?
Yeah. And the other thing is like, I understand that if you're a writer and you're adapting something, you also want to put your own stamp on it. So you don't want it to just be like, oh, they just like took the TV show and condensed it. The writer didn't really do anything, except that the writer for this movie is M. Night Shyamalan, who's also the director. So it's like, yes, I understand that you've written every movie you've made, but you're also the director. Plenty of directors direct movies that they didn't write.
Yeah.
So why can't you just be okay with the writing being heavily based off of? And like, again, there are things where I understand them condensing it. For example, there's the scene where they essentially have condensed the entire Kyoshi Island storyline and the entire Earth Kingdom prisoner storyline and the entire pirates with the waterbending scroll storyline into one scene. Now the scene's terrible.
Yes.
The scene is abysmally bad.
Oh yeah.
On every level. Why did they think that? Because essentially it's the Earth prisoner storyline. That's essentially it.
That's right.
With like one guy who kind of is reminiscent of the guy from Kyoshi Island. Do I miss the Kyoshi Warriors? Every moment of my fucking life. But essentially it's the prisoner storyline. So why, just why is it on Earth? The whole thing with the metal ship is they can't earthbend here.
Can't earthbend, but
and I'm like, why?
They're in a prison that's completely Earth, and it's like, what? What?
Like, Ong, I'm gonna call him Ong because I can't call him Aang. That's not the same character.
Yeah.
Ong literally walks in and is like, Earthbenders, there's earth beneath your feet. And I'm like, yeah. I'm confused too, man.
And then it takes 6 dudes to bend one rock slowly.
It's weird how, like, it's weird the underpoweredness you see in a lot of these things. Like
so weird.
The airbending feels underpowered, but also I get it because like CGI is hard, which is another reason why I don't know why the fuck you'd make this a live action movie with the limitations of the time, but whatever. Waterbending looks pretty good, I think, overall. Like, it's not terrible. It's not amazing. It could be better, but it's not terrible.
No.
Firebending looks okay. I don't know why they made it so you can't produce your own fire.
Yeah, that was a weird choice.
It was it was kind of cool, I guess, when they're like, oh, Iroh. Also, they call him Eero. I forgot about that. They call him
Eero.
General Eero.
Come on.
They call it Agni Kai and Agni Ki.
I forgot about that. Oh, Jesus.
It's spelled K-A-I.
I know.
How is K-A-I in any version pronounced Ki?
But it's more ethnically accurate, but I can't get through that sentence. Sorry, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. I can't. Mm-mm.
So, I hate it.
Oh, boy, dude.
But the earthbending is just so underpowered. It's like they can raise earth kind of okay, and then they can weakly throw rocks.
But yeah, like...
Why?
I know.
I also feel like it's the easiest thing, presumably, I feel like, to animate.
Yeah, just kind of...
So
I don't know.
Maybe they just ran out of budget. Maybe they were like, look, the fire and the air and the water matter more. I don't know.
I guess.
I don't know.
Like, at least there wasn't Toph in this movie. They'd probably call her Tough. I don't know.
Oh, God, they would.
Yeah.
They'd make her a dude.
Ah, shit, you're probably right.
I know.
That's unfortunate. Thank God.
I know exactly what happened. M. Night would be like, well, originally in the TV show, they were going to make her a dude, and then they decided to make her a girl. So I just wanted to be like accurate to the original vision, like set us apart. And then I'd have punched him in the face.
There's a darker timeline than the one we're in now where that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about how, first of all, the Ember Island Players is a better production than this movie.
It is.
But also, yeah, like literally, this movie is essentially what the Ember Island Players is supposed to be. But at least that was like narratively like self-aware.
Right.
Because it was written as a parody.
Exactly.
And this is just a thing that happened to us.
This was just actually the first run of the Ember Islands Players, and then they learned, and then they fixed
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
I thought you were gonna say this is when the first seal of the Apocalypse was released.
That too.
It's all been like the Apocalypse we're currently in. This is what kicked it off.
Yeah, that sounds about right. When did this movie come out?
2010.
Yeah, sounds right. Okay.
So we've had like we had like a 10-year run. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Things have slowly been progressing down.
Yep.
I have a lot of questions about things that happen in this movie. Like, why did they make it so that the Fire Nation wanted to not live amongst the spirits? Because they added that, right? I'm not mistaken. In the TV show, the Fire Nation just wants power. And this one, they're like, the Avatar bridges the world between the spirits and the humans, and the Fire Nation doesn't want to live amongst the spirts. So they've waged this war. And I'm like, well, why?
Yeah, no.
Why have you added this?
No, in the show, Oze's just like, no, I want to take over the world. I'm like, I don't think he gives a shit about the spirits.
Power, sure.
Yeah. What? Okay.
I feel like M. Night does not understand this show.
No.
At all.
He doesn't.
Like,
at all.
Because it's just like everything that's left in this movie is plot. And the plot of Avatar, especially season 1 of Avatar, is not its strength.
Right.
Its strength is like the characters and the spirituality and the themes and the messages. And this movie's just like, hey, forget all of that.
Forget all of that. And then we've got nothing to stand on.
And you can argue that, like, it's just kind of partly a requirement of making it a movie. And I understand that theoretically, except that according to M. Night, in an interview he had with the creators of the show, when they asked him why he got involved, he was like, oh, I was watching this show with my kids and we finished season 1. And I was like, this would make a great movie. And they were like, yeah. And that means it was his idea. That means he watched this 20 episode long, like very episodically driven, very much about the slow moments show and went, that should be a 2 hour, not even 2 hours, hour and 40-minute long movie.
Who, like, why? Why?
I don't know.
Why? What was going through his head? He thought that would be a good idea.
You know that TikTok audio where it's like, but why would you do this? And they're like, why not? And it's like, but why?
But why?
Why not?
But why?
Yeah, that's M. Night.
Exactly.
M. Night just sitting there being like, why not? And the entire world is sitting around him being like, but why though?
But you did this for what?
You did this for what?
I don't know. I knew.
Did you ever watch it again after seeing it in theaters?
No.
Did you not walk out of the theater?
No. I mean, I was, what?
Yeah, child. Yeah, that's
a
fair.
child with my whole family. We even brought my grandma, I think, too. Like, oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really made them all suffer.
It wasn't my fault. I mean, well,
I know.
Yeah, but we were just like, we love this show. Maybe the movie will be okay. And then I think they said "ong," and we all like went, "What?" And the whole movie was us just hating it and making fun of it the rest of the time. But man,
do you think this movie would be fun to get drunk and like make fun of with your friends, or do you think it's so bad that you just physically can't even do that without suffering?
No, I think you can. I've definitely seen other videos like on YouTube where a bunch of people, friends, get together and they're fans of the show and they're just like, garbage, dog shit, I hate you. I'm like, yeah, fair.
Yeah. I'm still hung up on the mispronunciation of everything.
It's so bad.
Also, at one point, Aang is talking about why he ran away because, of course, they ruined his running away storyline too, somehow.
Yeah.
And he's like, they said I can't have a family, so I ran away. I'm like, dude, you're a monk. Were you planning to have a family? Because it seems like, based off of the air nomad culture that I've seen, family isn't really a thing that you do.
No, family is the monks that you know. Hello, Gyatso, his fucking father figure, and he ran away because he didn't want to be the Avatar.
Obviously,
oh my god.
And like, obviously, Aang ends up with a family, and his son ends up with a family, so like that goes away. But and maybe it wasn't like a hard and fast rule. I don't know. I just feel like the vibe I always got from the air nomads in like the pre-Avatar era, or like pre-Last Airbender era, was like they just kind of hang out here. Monks are the parental figures,
you know. Yeah,
they're just vibing. I don't understand. And everything just looks bad. Everything looks bad in this movie.
They like made specific choices to make everything look horrible. Did you see what Appa looked like? What the fuck? Oh
god. Appa's disgusting.
So gross.
And like, I'm rewatching The Last Airbender right now, like the TV show with my sister, because she has seen it, but she has no memory of it. So essentially she's watching it for the first time. Okay. Which is very fun for me.
Yeah.
So we're watching through it, and Appa's so cute. And I love him.
I love
him. And then I watched this. And what the fuck was that? I suffered.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get
it.
Why does the spirit world look so bad?
It's so dark.
It looks like a bad fan film.
does. Like, you can do so much with the spirit world.
Yeah.
And you just went with the boring, dark, can't see
blue
much,
tint.
blue tint.
Yeah. And the thing about the spirit world is, like, when we see it in the show, it just looks like a forest.
Yeah.
But spirity. Like, you don't really need to not have it be a forest. Just have a mystical forest.
It's so easy to do.
Also in an interview with M. Night Shyamalan and the creators of Avatar, he's like, oh, I forget who asked who, but Studio Ghibli came up because Studio Ghibli was like a big influence on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay.
And M. Night's like, yeah, I love Studio Ghibli too. Like, I think that Hayao Miyazaki is like one of the best directors. And I'm like, so how did you make this movie where you took the natural beauty of nature and the forest that Avatar built its spirit world on, that is heavily inspired by Studio Ghibli, and go, it should be blue and mysticky, but bad. Not even good blue and mysticky.
You just go into the fucking redwoods in the middle of the day, turn on a fog machine, and you're good to go.
Honestly, yeah.
That's all you have to do.
CGI in some like magical looking things. Hell, you could even just like put practical magical looking things in. There's some mushrooms in there. That feels magical.
Yeah, sure. Have a puppet. I don't care. It's that easy.
I never want to say I could make a better movie, but I could make a better movie.
Absolutely make a better movie than this.
And I say that as someone who is not a director and knows I'm not that great at directing. I could make a better movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even the dialogue is so stilted.
Oh my God, it's so, yeah, it's not great.
Why do they feel like they're not having real conversations all the time?
They're just reading lines so flatly.
And it's like, and there's weird pauses between them saying things to each other where I'm like, editing exists, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, you can cut this dialogue.
You could cut this down.
No.
Also, at one point, Yue calls the moon spirit he. And I don't know if Avatar: The Last Airbender ever said the moon spirit was a she, but I definitely always imagined the moon spirit as a she. It feels weird having the moon spirit be referred to as a he.
Right. Especially
maybe
when Yue becomes
yeah.
Spirit.
And I mean, like, obviously she becomes it, so it's like it changes, I guess. And that might be why I view the moon spirit as like inherently a she.
Maybe me too, but
it still felt weird. It felt like a weird thing to be like distinctly have her say he. Because also because it's yin and yang.
Right.
And which isn't the best pronunciation of it, but whatever. And like one of the bases of yin and yang is male and female.
Mm-hmm.
So like by that idea, one of the spirits should be male and one should be female. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that the other spirit couldn't be male, but I always felt like the moon was a she.
It's usually
possibly because of Yue. I don't know. It just bothers me.
But it could be. I don't know. But yeah.
It's a weird thing, but it bothers me.
That's fair. Just everything in this movie bothers me. And the more you think about it, it's like, that too. That sucks.
Almost everything is just Katara badly narrating. And I feel bad saying Katara because this is not Katara.
No way.
But it's just Katara weirdly narrating over visuals of Aang doing things. Also, Aang builds up a revolution, I guess, this time. Because they're like, forget the idea of him just like learning waterbending and that being the goal. He has to inspire people.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, here's one of my biggest complaints.
Okay.
So I just thought of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I took a class called Taoism in Film when I was in school. And Taoism is a very Eastern philosophy. And one of the core tenets of Taoism is this kind of like going with the flow, which isn't to say that like you can't make decisions, but just kind of like accepting where things take you. And we watched Avatar in that class because Avatar is a very good representation of Taoism. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, not to say that like Aang can't be an active participant, and that's the theme of this show is like Aang needs to be an active participant and he needs to grow. But I feel like when you have Aang being not a good person just because he's a good person who's been traveling around and wants to help whoever he comes across, but being a revolutionary who's actively going to villages to try and like raise morale and like love for him as an avatar. I just feel like that's a different thing. That's not
Aang at all.
It's not at all.
Oh.
Where's the sense of fun?
No fun allowed in this.
Why at the end when the Northern Water Tribe is all bowing to him and they're like, you're our avatar, and he gets into a pose? First of all, what's that pose? What is he doing? Second of all, and perhaps more importantly, why does his face look pained? I thought the point was that he's accepting his role as the avatar now.
Who knows? I can't even...
I'm not sure M. Night Shyamalan knows.
I don't think that he does either. There are some choices made. Characters don't make sense.
There were so many choices made. And there are movies I like that make weird choices. I like Aquaman, which is a weird movie that makes a lot of really weird directorial choices. Yeah. But I kind of enjoy it because it's chaotic and fun. Exactly. And I thrive off chaos.
Yes.
But this isn't that.
No, it is not. You know? Oh, God.
So, Chloe, what do you think is the worst part of this movie? We're just going to be very negative about this movie.
I'm very negative about it. I'm going through the plot right now and finding other things.
Go for it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah. He talks to the dragon spirit in the Avatar
Right.
state.
That's another weird thing. Why does he not talk to Roku?
Yeah.
First of all, the spirits... Okay, I realize some spirits do talk. I don't want to say the spirits never talk. But a lot of the spirits canonically don't talk. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that that's that big of a deal to change. But it definitely feels like a loss to not have Aang talking to Avatar Roku. Because I think one of the coolest things about the reincarnation story and this idea of the Avatar is that he is connected to his past lives. Mm-hmm. And this one, there's a dragon spirit that talks to him sometimes. And it's like...
Was that supposed to be Roku? Like...
Is it supposed to be Roku's dragon at least? I don't even know.
Because, is he represented by the dragon? Because he did have a dragon? I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. Why does this movie make its decisions?
I don't know. At the end, instead of Zhao getting just kind of kidnapped by those... Sucked up and just disappearing, Ocean. The waterbenders just drown him and then drop his body there?
Yeah.
What the fuck? All right.
A lot of things happening. A lot of stuff. A lot of things are done. I don't like Zhao in this at all.
No. I don't.
Also, they're like, oh, we need to make the Fire Lord more of a presence for some reason. And I'm like, dude, you really don't.
You really don't need Ozai.
You really don't need scenes of him with Ozai at all.
Especially not in it. No.
Especially not I don't like the actor who plays Ozai one bit. That's not at all how I picture Ozai. That's not exactly the vibe Ozai is supposed to give off. There's a reason the show ends with a fight with Ozai.
Yeah. Not.
Also, it's lacking without Luke Skywalker's voice.
I constantly forget that that's Mark Hamill. It's so fucking weird.
I forgot that until this week.
Consistently forget that. And then I relearn. I'm like, oh my God. Weird.
Because I know Joker's Mark Hamill. I know those fun facts.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Fire Lord Ozai being Mark Hamill, I constantly forget.
Completely forget. All the time. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, God. This movie ended with the teaser of Azula, didn't it?
It did.
That was
It's funny, too, because, again, going back to that interview with M. Night Shyamalan and the director or the creators of the show, he kept referencing the trilogy. He kept being like, yeah, this is going to be the next, 6 years of my life. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Can you imagine if we got 2
and then you're going to make After
these?
Earth.
Oh, my God.
No, I do respect on the production company level that at the very least they had the smarts to just stop instead of giving us Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters level shit or the ongoing Insurgent series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he really thought there was a trilogy coming. He thought he was just going to be doing this for a while.
You thought this was it, huh? I mean, who?
He thought this was it. I remember when I was a kid watching watching specials on Nickelodeon in between commercial, in the commercials, they had little clips where they'd be talking about the upcoming movie. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember them talking about how excited they were specifically for the actor who plays Aang. And I'm like, why?
Why? He doesn't. There's nothing there. I understand
nothing about this.
There's
nothing there. He might be my least favorite part of this entire movie, which I don't know if I can say that because there's a lot of things I hate about this movie.
But like fair.
Like, what's your least? Okay, so is your least favorite part the names sounding different? Is it the acting? Is it the way it doesn't represent the tone or vibe or feeling of Avatar as a whole? Can you not pin it down because it's just too much?
I can't pin it down. There is so much. There's so much wrong with this. You can't. I don't know where to start. I don't know. You start on the fact that they're all white. I don't know.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
You know?
I don't get it.
I don't.
And also they made like, there's clear inspiration for each nation. Like the Fire Nation is Japanese. Mm-hmm. The Earth Kingdom is Chinese. Mm-hmm. The Air Nomads are Tibetan.
Yep.
The Water Tribe is Inuit. And it's like...
And the Swamp people are Florins, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I don't understand why you go and you're like, okay, most of the Water Tribe is Inuit, except for our characters and their grandma. Which, by the way, I think the most jarring thing for me was seeing the white grandma among them. Because at least, like... Katara and Sokka had dark hair, which isn't to say that it makes them look anything like they should. No. But it was like, okay, this doesn't feel like, you know, completely jarring.
Mm-hmm. It helps but then just a little bit, but...
It helps just a little bit, exactly. Like, I still hated it.
Yeah.
But it helped just a little bit. And then I saw the white, gray-haired grandma walk out in Inuit inspired garb, and I was like, what the fuck am I looking at?
That's wrong. No.
Or in the Northern Water Tribe, there was like the lineup of soldiers on the wall, and there was one just like distinctly white guy in this Inuit warrior costume, and I'm like, sir,
it's so bizarre.
What are you doing here?
Like, these people aren't white. Come on.
And that's the thing is like M. Night Shyamalan defended this when people criticized the casting, and he's like, this is gonna be one of the most diverse movies, blockbusters out there for the time, and I'm like, I mean. To be fair, he might be right. We did not have a lot of diverse blockbusters at the time.
Yes.
However, this is a very diverse show.
Yes.
It doesn't have white people at all.
No. Not at all.
The nations are distinctly based in certain cultures. Mm-hmm. So why'd you make the Fire Nation Indian?
That was a very weird choice. They're the only people of color in this movie, and they're the bad guys, which also feels weird. But
yeah, and I feel like maybe, and I obviously can't speak for M. Night Shyamalan.
Right.
I feel like maybe his thought process was because he said in an interview that Zuko's his favorite character. So it might have just been him being like, I am Indian. I want to make my favorite character that nationality.
Fair. But...
Which like... So I assume it's not coming from a malicious standpoint, just because, like, again, it's where he was born in India.
Yeah.
But still, what the fuck?
Right?
And also just like, and again, obviously I'm a white guy. I can't entirely speak to this, but it is representation for other cultures. Mm-hmm. So even if you are providing new representation for India, and I don't want to say that like definitively it's bad, but like, I feel like you're stealing representation from people who are of Japanese, Chinese, Inuit, and Tibetan descent.
Right. You know, yeah, it's...
yeah.
Again, every single choice I am questioning.
Mm-hmm. I know we had the episode where we talked about Michael Bay, and I was like, I have so many questions for Michael Bay. That pales in comparison to the questions I now have for M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Like, the questions I had for Michael Bay was maybe... a pamphlet's length, like like not a thin pamphlet, like maybe a few pages in the pamphlet, but like a pamphlet.
Sure.
Maybe a short novella. Mm-hmm. My questions for M. Night Shyamalan is Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
All three of them.
Yes. I see. Okay. Yeah. I get it. Yes.
I don't understand.
I don't get it.
What's the one? Is there one thing about this movie you like? Is there anything in this movie that you like?
No.
I can say one thing. I have exactly one thing that in this movie that I don't hate.
Okay.
I feel like overall Sokka and Yue's relationship is worse in this than it is in the TV show because she becomes background very fast. We have a lot less time with her. However, there is a scene where they kind of like go back and forth with each other about like when she's like questioning him, or he's questioning her. He's like, oh, if you meet my grandma, she'll ask you questions. And then she's like, oh, and then they talk and they like, learn things about each other. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like a lot of Sokka and Yue's relationship in the TV show was kind of just him being like, I'm into you. And her being like, you can't be. I'm into you too. I can't be. I'm into you too. And I would have liked a bit more of them actually having like banter. I accept their relationship. I really enjoy the tragedy of Yue with Sokka overall. Mm-hmm. But I did like that this movie tried to give them more of like an actual banter. Sadly, that's the only time you ever really see Yue talk beyond her just being like, oh, the spiritual place is that way.
Fair, yeah.
But conceptually, I liked that idea.
Okay.
Do I like the execution? Not much. Do I like the lack of any other development of the relationship? No. But the idea, sure. I'll give them that.
Okay. Sure. I'll give you that. Yeah.
The rest is trash.
Absolutely.
The rest is garbage. There's even Dev Patel, who I love dearly, and who is the best performance in this movie. Mm-hmm. I can't do it. I just,
Like, I know, okay, like Zuko's defining physical feature is his scar. You can...
And it's barely noticeable.
You can barely see it.
And I don't know if that's like a skin color thing. Like, I don't know if it just shows up a lot more on people with lighter complexions, as Zuko theoretically should have, right, because he's not Indian. He's Japanese.
Right.
But still, that's things you think about.
Like, you hear Zuko, it's like, oh, I think I have the scar. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I kept forgetting Zuko had the scar. Like, I kept seeing his face and just not noticing.
Yeah, you only see in like certain lighting, like, oh yeah, you're supposed to. Okay, sure. Uh-huh.
It's like, oh right, you're Zuko. Oh yeah,
you're supposed to be Zuko. Okay, yeah.
Sure, and I'm the president of the United States.
Oh my god.
Not Trump either. The old president, Obama. That's me. You can see the similarities, right?
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah.
And the next
Zuko, Dev Patel, Zuko. Me, Obama, same thing.
Same thing. They're going to make a movie
just
about Obama.
Spitting images.
And then you're going to be cast.
Oh, that'd be so problematic.
So bad. Oh, God. Like, I know.
Can you imagine a producer just walking in and being like, well, he's half white?
That's exactly what you would hear.
That is exactly what you would hear. Yeah.
I know we said the bending was like, okay. But I'm still hung up. I think. I
don't think the bending's okay.
It's not great.
Because it looks okay sometimes, but the actual action, the actual motion that the characters are doing and the action that they're doing in regards to the bending always looks stupid.
It's like so many different martial arts. That's all you have to do, and it's none of that. And every time they water bend, there's so much water falling off of whatever like thing they're bending. Like, how are you still holding any water?
Yeah. And also, like, we've literally in the show seen Katara pull water out of like the sand after she spills it. So I'm like, she can very distinctly capture all of the water. You don't need this.
Yeah, it make it make sense.
I hate it.
I hate it so much.
Yeah, no, like that's the shitty thing too, is like, yes, I hate this movie because I think it ignores everything that makes Avatar good and focuses on just like the generic plot details that really aren't that great in season one. They're bad. They do serve their purpose. It's just like season one is a relatively simple plot line overall with good episodes that develop the characters and develop the themes of Avatar. Mm-hmm. And they're great episodes.
Yeah.
But if you remove all of that and just make it get from point A to point B to point C to point D to Northern Water Tribe, you lose everything that makes this show special.
Exactly.
Katara hasn't even met Zuko until the end of the movie. Like, that was so jarring to me. Zuko shows up and Katara's like, you're the son of the Fire Lord. I'm like, holy shit.
They haven't met. We're not gonna get the whole you rise with the moon, I rise with the sun and all that. Like, fuck it up.
And it's also like, this season one is Zuko at his worst. And if you barely see him, you don't get Zuko being at his worst.
Yeah.
You don't get the complexity of his character. Also, Katara and Sokka suck. This is what's crazy to me. Avatar: The Last Airbender
right.
has some of the best characters like as an overall cast
100%,
in a show. And somehow, like I love Legend of Korra, but I think Legend of Korra has a weaker supporting cast overall. I think one of Avatar: The Last Airbender's greatest strengths is how good its supporting cast is.
Right.
And yet somehow this movie comes and it's like, hey, you know how you like Sokka and Katara? They're the worst. You know how you love Zuko and he's really interesting? He's aight at best. Uncle Iroh kind of still okay. But like I'm watching the show with my sister, and my sister keeps being like, I fucking love Iroh. I love Iroh. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like Iroh's so lovable.
Exactly.
And in this movie, Iroh exists.
He's there.
He's like not the worst. Yeah.
It's Iroh, excuse you.
I'm so sorry. You're right. How dare I offend the culture that M. Night Shyamalan works so hard to represent.
Yeah.
So let's stop talking about this movie for a little while. Okay. So let's talk about something that matters more.
Okay.
Actually, before we stop talking about it, I'm going to throw a couple fun facts at you because I don't really feel like jumping back to them after we've gotten away from this movie because I don't want to deal with that.
Fair.
So Chloe.
Yes.
This movie had a cursed series of films its trailers were attached to.
Oh, Jesus.
Its teaser premiered with Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Oh my God.
Because somehow everything comes back to Transformers here.
Oh, no.
Now, you might be thinking, man, that's rough. Its first trailer came out with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief.
Ooh-wee. Yikes, dude.
Now, it got a break.
Okay.
It definitely got better after this. It got a break when its second trailer came out in theaters before How to Train Your Dragon. Okay. So finally a nice break for audiences. They have to experience the Last Airbender trailer, but then they get to watch one of the best animated movies ever made.
True. Exactly.
And then the final trailer comes out right before Iron Man 2.
Yay.
Which is the least rough of the bad options here, but still not good.
Not great.
No.
Oh, God.
For audiences, Chloe has fully slumped back in her chair. It's visually makes this reaction a lot more enjoyable. She's broken thinking about this.
That's horrible, dude.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cards were stacked against this movie from the beginning. Not to say that like the creation of this movie had anything to do with what it was put up in front of, but damn, everything about this movie's cursed.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God.
The creators didn't want an adaptation. And if it happened, they wanted to be the ones to make it, to be the directors. Mm-hmm. They weren't allowed to. And they tried to be helpful and like give input with the studio and with M. Night Shyamalan as it was being made. But eventually they had a falling out and they didn't feel like they were being listened to. And then this happened and they hate it.
I can see that they weren't listened to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God. All right.
So now that we're past the fun facts, Chloe. And by fun facts, I mean like fun, quote unquote, facts, because everything about this movie is torture and I viscerally hated watching it. Uh-huh. Let's talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the actual show.
Thank God.
The good shit.
Woo.
The good.
Oh, the best.
We've made it through the gauntlet of talking about this stupid ass movie.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Avatar: The Last Airbender was created by Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. Chloe, when did you start watching this show? What were your initial feelings about this show? Has your love for it changed or grown over time? Give me all the tea.
Oh my gosh. I don't remember when I started watching it. It's just always been around. I distinctly remember, I don't know, just every time new episode came out, just the whole family would come down, would come watch it. Like I remember like when season 3 trailers or like teasers dropped, I was like calling my dad at work and I'm like, oh my God, Aang has hair now. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. Oh my God. Like when like the Eclipse, like the Day of Black Sun episodes came out, like
yeah,
they were out online before they were on TV or something. So like all of us like crowded around my dad's like little tiny laptop on the couch and we all watched it. And it was,
that's adorable.
It's a good time. I have good memories associated with this show. I've loved it since the start. I still love it now. I have multiple pets named after these characters. I have a dog named Suki. I have a ferret named Yue. Yeah.
I remember Suki. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Love
I want to
show.
name a pet Appa.
Valid.
Mm-hmm. I just want to get like a really cute, fluffy dog and name it Appa.
It'd be so cute. Just like a big fluffy. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Unrelated to this, but you are completely pixelated, and I'm gonna send you. This is horrifying.
Exciting stuff.
That is so scary. Hold on, sending this to you.
Cool, love it. Great times. I can't see it because, as you know, I don't know where my phone went.
Oh, you're right.
But when I find it,
yeah, you'll know.
When I find it, I will. Yes,
perfect.
I heard it buzz again. Where is it? I found it.
Oh, you did. Oh, good. Okay.
I found it. Okay. So what is this thing you've sent me?
What you look like.
Oh my God, I am very pixelated.
That's what you look like to me right now.
It looks like a impressionist sunset painting.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I've screenshotted it for posterity.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So the show means a lot to you.
It does. Yes.
Beautiful. Love that. So you were watching it, you'd say pretty much consistently since it premiered?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like, I also don't have a memory. Like I can remember a time before The Last Airbender existed, but I don't really have a memory of like, oh, this show's coming out. Like we should check it out. It just kind of feels like suddenly it was part of my life and it was never not part of my life after that.
Yeah.
Like I have some weirdly distinct memories about this show. I very distinctly remember I was at some house with like family friends. It was like an adult party for the most part, but there were a bunch of kids there and we were all sitting in the basement or a downstairs that I perceived as a basement because why would there be a basement in Northern California? I don't fucking know.
Okay.
Point is, sitting in this room, we were all just like crowded around the TV watching the drill episode.
Nice.
For the first time. And like, I have such distinct memories of watching that and like seeing Azula kick ass, and like the drill episode is still very important to me because of how distinct that memory is. And I don't know why.
Get it.
But Avatar was just such a big deal.
It still is.
Or like I had one DVD of the season, not the season. It's like, for some reason they had DVDs that were like some episodes. So I had a DVD that was like book 1, part 3. So it was like episodes like 10 through 15 or something of the show specifically. And my family had an RV, so we used to like go drive the RV around a lot, and the RV had TV inside of it. So I'd put the DVD on the TV and I would just like watch these episodes over and over and over and over.
Nice.
Because they're magical and I love them.
So good.
They are so good.
God.
So like how do you feel about it overall? Like I realize I kind of asked that, but I mean, what stands out to you as like why you love it? Do you feel like it is partly based on just the fact that it was such a big part of your life growing up? What do you feel like you have like a distinct knowledge of like, oh, this thing just like connects with me in a way that other things don't?
I don't know.
Is it one of your favorite TV shows, or is it one of your favorite animated shows? Is it just a thing that you kind of don't perceive that way? It just kind of is like an ever-present existence.
Man. Oh,
if that makes sense.
No, that does. Yeah, words. No, all of that makes sense, and all of it true in its own way. I guess, yeah. No, I just adore it, and I guess it is partly because it was so integral to my childhood and all of that. But it's also a really actually good show. So thank God.
It's so
like
good.
It's aged well. Like I can watch it now as an adult and still be like, oh my God, this slaps.
It's really wild too, watching it as an adult, because for me, at least, when I was watching it as a kid, I was like, yeah, like look at these kids doing this kid thing. Haha, fun. And I watched it as an adult and I'm like, look at these children who are caught in a war.
Yeah. It's
so dark.
Yes.
Like even in the first 2 episodes, like the 2-part premiere, when the Water Tribe gets invaded by the Fire Nation, and like you see Sokka by himself standing to fight this giant ship, and you see one kid almost get crushed by the ship's thing coming down, and I'm like, these are children. Sokka is a child facing off against an entire warship, and the same thing with like fucking Zuko.
Yeah,
he's a kid.
He is 16 in this show. Like, bro,
I know.
Oh my god.
And like Aang's 12, which is still very weird to me.
It's so bizarre.
Still very weird to me.
So weird. The fact that I was watching the show when I was younger than the characters, and now I have grown up and aged past them is so whack to me.
I get that. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing. I feel like I was kind of around Aang's age. No, I wasn't. No, I was. Yeah, because it came out in like 2005, right? 2003 or 2005.
Like
I don't remember.
That, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I was 12 in 2007. So like in the general vicinity, I got up to the point that I was the same age as Aang.
Yeah.
But even then, like I was the same age as the youngest child.
Right. He's a baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a youth.
Youth.
Chloe, do you have a favorite character in the show? You can also just talk about every character you love. You don't have to like specifically focus on one.
Oh my god.
Because there's a lot of great characters, and I'm very, very willing to just talk about every character.
Fair and valid.
And how I feel about them.
You say favorite character. My mind automatically goes to Katara. She was always my favorite growing up.
Mm-hmm.
She's still badass. I love her.
She's great.
Dearly. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Of course,
I feel like the go-to answer for a lot of people is Zuko, which I feel like is what you're about to say.
I was gonna say, of course, every girl like had a crush on Zuko, so like, oh yeah, that was my next thing.
Yeah. And also just like Zuko's redemption arc is so good and well done that I feel like just as an audience, even if you didn't have a crush on Zuko, you're just like, I fucking love Zuko.
I love him. You hear redemption arc and like you want to know a good one, people automatically point you to Zuko. This is how you do a good redemption arc. I'm like, you're right.
Especially because, and it's like, it's aided very much by the fact that he's young.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important because there is something to be said that like, if your redemption is Darth Vader killing the Emperor and then dying after decades of him being, you know, a fascist right-hand man of the Emperor who murders a bunch of people. Like, yes, I feel bad for Anakin. The tragedy of Anakin's super sad. I love Star Wars and I love Darth Vader. But also, how much redemption is that really? You did one thing and then you died.
Yeah, no, it was fine. He was redeemed in the eyes of his son. So like,
he was, and like,
and family's everything. And, so you know.
And I value that story. I think that doing it once in Star Wars was fine. I think doing it a second time was not fine at Rise of Skywalker. But I do love that Zuko's redemption story is very much based in like, you know, he had very clear reasons for why he was doing what he was doing. He was very scarred by his past, figuratively and literally. He is a child who's figuring out his place in the world, and he was raised in this culture, and he was a good kid, and he still kind of is a good kid even when he is doing the wrong thing, and like, and he works really hard to redeem himself.
Wasn't just like, I'm good now, that's it. That's all I need. It wasn't like him and
Ozai fighting Aang, and then suddenly at the last minute Zuko's like, lightning.
Yeah.
Dead Ozai. I did it, guys. I'm a good guy. Oh no, I'm dying.
Honor. Fuck. He's gone. Jeez.
I don't know who my favorite character is. I feel like it probably is Zuko, but I really love Iroh and I really love Toph.
Valid.
Toph is so great. I forgot how great Toph is, but like because I'm rewatching it right now, we just got around to the point that Toph is introduced, and just like, God, she's a good character.
She really is.
She adds so much fun to the show, but also she's like serious and cool, and her blind jokes are top notch.
They are so good. She's hilarious. Oh my God.
Also, I have a new appreciation watching this show for earthbending, because I feel like growing up, I was always like, earthbending's the worst one. And I still wouldn't want to be an earthbender if I had the choice of which type of bending I would be able to do. However, earthbending is pretty cool to watch.
You could do some pretty neat stuff with it. You know?
There's some really cool fight scenes with like Toph and Aang earthbending.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's pretty.
It deserves a lot more credit.
Fair. Yeah.
On that note, if you could be a bender, what element would you want to bend?
Water.
Same.
Yeah. Water tribe.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like it's this good balance where it's like, I don't know. Earth is just like too, I don't know what's the right word for it. It's too rigid, I guess.
Okay.
Something about it just feels like very like stance, strength, and like sure. But I feel like if I was fighting, I wouldn't want to be like a strength based fighter.
Yeah,
I'd want to be like an agility based fighter.
Exactly.
Air is cool. Air does a lot of cool things. I think air would probably be my second choice.
I think fire would be my second.
I get it.
Yeah.
Fire I like. I don't know. I don't think I want to be a firebender. I like that water can be so many things. It can be sharp. It can be like an onslaught of water. It can be ice. It can be snow. You can bloodbend sometimes, maybe, if you have the ability.
Yeah. Can be your angel or your devil, baby.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Also, the Northern Water Tribe is just sick. It's a cool place.
Oh my god, yeah. No kidding.
I want to go there.
Me too. Damn.
Is that like if you could choose to vacation anywhere in Avatar, is that where you choose to go?
I guess, even though I hate the cold, but like, damn, is it cool? Just go hang out.
It's really
in the
cool. I think
Spirit Pond area.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I choose to vacation. If I had to live somewhere, I think I'd probably choose like the Air Temple because that's sick.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be an air nomad.
No, just live there.
But like, yeah, like in the one episode when they have the people who've like taken over an air temple and like doing sciencey things, I'd be them.
Yeah.
I'd have like the gliders and I'd be like, yeah, let's go.
See, I don't like heights, so I wouldn't fuck with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that.
I'd probably like live. I
like,
don't know. The Fire Nation seems pretty cool.
The Fire Nation's so cool.
It's,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's kind of hot, but you know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like the heat. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode of this show?
Ooh. Hoo-wee. That's a great question.
Hoo-wee mama.
Hoo-wee mama. Ooh. Your favorite episode? There's so many. Like,
It's hard, I know.
It is hard. I think like my knee-jerk reaction is say like an episode like the Southern Raiders. That's a good one.
That is a good one. I like that one a lot too. I was thinking about saying that.
Yeah. I think most of my favorite episodes are all like season 3 because I really like season 3.
Season 3 is really good. That's the thing that I feel kind of like weird saying mine because I've been rewatching the show and I've basically gotten up to everything but season 3.
Okay.
So I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I love the Southern Raiders one. I think my favorite individual episode, because it's also like, for as episodic as this show is, it's also very connected.
Right.
Especially the further you get into it. So like season 1 was very episodic. Season 2 became a bit more connected. Season 3 is like very like A, B, C, D. Even if they are also kind of removed where they have like the, you know, like the Zuko getting to know everyone.
Yeah.
Point is, I love Appa's Lost Day. I just watched it.
God.
I just watched it. And just like as an individual standalone episode devoid of like characters and all these other things, it's so good.
Yeah.
They tell such a powerful, compelling story that makes me very sad without much dialogue, with a protagonist who can't speak.
Yeah.
That shit fucks me up.
Oh, man. Oh, I love Appa so much.
He's adorable. I want one.
Oh, I know. Oh, my God.
There's just like multiple points in that episode where I wanted to cry.
Valid. That's fair. You know? Yeah.
And I was watching, as my sister was sitting next to me, and she's like, I am depressed. And I'm like, mood.
I get it. Yes. Me too. Jeez. They're going through my Avatar tag on my Tumblr right now. God, there's so many.
Beautiful.
So many good episodes. Gosh.
There are.
So good.
I like even like right before Appa's Lost Day, there's the Tales from Ba Sing Se, which is also a very good episode. It's fun.
That's good.
It's also sad.
Yeah.
It hits every note.
Exactly.
I like the Kyoshi Warriors episode just because I like the Kyoshi Warriors a lot. It's fun to see them. I love the drill episode, as I've mentioned.
I like God, any of like the season finales, they all slap.
They're all very good, yeah.
Very good.
The only season finale I've seen recently is the season 1 finale. But even that one, like, it's so good.
So good, yeah.
So good. I'm very excited to get to the season 2 finale soon and then start watching season 3 and be like, Zuko with long hair. The hottest Zuko.
True. Oh my gosh, the ending of season 2 when Aang like almost died and they were like, what? The Earth Kingdom is fallen. It's like, what the fuck? Oh my god.
My sister is very smart. So she can, and like this show is not trying to like keep you guessing that much. So my sister was like watching a lot of things and she's like, like, is Zuko going to turn good? Like, I feel like Zuko's going to turn good. And like saying through all these things. I'm very happy that this show doesn't just do like a straight path of Zuko becoming a good guy.
Yes.
Because I'm hoping that this season's going to end and my sister's going to be like, oh shit, he doesn't become good.
Doesn't. It's like, uh-oh. Oh my god. It's... I have to go rewatch it now that it's on Netflix. I haven't done that yet.
I get it, yeah.
It's so good.
I don't know why I'm only just now rewatching it because I have the Blu-ray box set of Avatar and it's been sitting on my shelf for ages. But for some reason, it's because putting individual Blu-rays into a Blu-ray players
it's time consuming
work, especially with TV because they only have so many episodes on each Blu-ray. So you have to like get up and change.
Yeah, it's just too much work.
So now it's on Netflix.
It's like, now it's on Netflix and you just put it on and it plays perfect.
Exactly. Anything you want to watch it on, I can watch an episode on my phone if I want to. I can watch it on my computer. Now I'm limited by watching with my sister, but even then, we're making good time. Yeah. We're clipping through this.
Nice, good. Oh man.
What do you feel like you connect with most? Do you connect with like the themes of this show? Do you connect with like the spirituality of the show? Do you connect with like bending is cool to watch? What really pulls you in, do you think?
It's a good one. I mean, of course, bending is cool, so yes.
Bending is very cool. The action's just good.
The action is good. That's a shallow answer.
You hear that, Last Airbender movie? The action is good. Good is the thing you need.
That's the key thing right there. Make it good. God. I don't know. I think it's the characters that you can just kind of relate to in different ways. I don't think there's like one specific character I'm like, that's me. It's just all the aspects. I'm like, I see myself in all these characters. I'm like, oh, that's really, neat.
I feel like there's that thing that's been going around on Twitter, if you've seen it, which I'm assuming you have, because we both exist on the internet.
Do we?
Where people are like, oh, which Avatar character am I? And I feel like everyone is a bit of someone, but like no one is distinctly one character that I've seen so far. At least it's just like these characters are so complex and unique. And like, I feel like at a quick glance, they can feel like, oh, Toph's the like tough teacher and Katara's like the sweet teacher.
Yeah.
And Aang is the like naive kid, but with power. And Sokka is the like sarcastic one with a boomerang.
Yeah.
But they're so much more complicated and interesting than that.
Yeah.
And I love them.
They're like so developed and oh my God, they're like actual people because they're so many characteristics they have. And I love it. Great.
I think it's really cool to watch a show that is so steeped in like Eastern mythology and Eastern philosophy and religion, because I feel like we don't get that much.
No.
We get like a lot of like Lord of the Rings style mythology. We get a lot of like Greek style mythology.
Yeah.
We're getting Norse mythology now, as we've mentioned on this podcast before. But it's so cool to see a show that is just like, like our influence is Eastern. And also not just that their influence is Eastern. It's not just like they're like, oh, the Hindu gods, but in America, they're like it's a show about Eastern philosophy. Right. It's a show about like, it's so interesting how each episode connects to just like such deeper themes than I realized as a kid.
Oh yeah. There's like, oh yeah. I think
I'm watching. Sorry, continue.
No, I think that's why I connect to it too. Cause it's like, half my family is Asian and I don't really talk about that or connect with that a whole lot, but that's why we brought my grandma to go see this. Cause it's like the garbage movie, but like, I think she ended up watching the show later.
But it is Asian representation.
It's Asian representation, even though there were no Asian people in that movie. But like, so you take what you can get. But no, I think that's also a reason why I really like the show and why I related to it.
Yeah, I mean, like I can.
Yeah. You know?
I like obviously tons of people love this show, so I can't say that like our personal experiences necessarily like shape our connection to it in a way that makes us care about it more. But I had the same thing where like I grew up in a Hindu based religion. I grew up around reincarnation and meditation and Om and all that kind of stuff. And I was watching this show where like they were meditating and they were saying Om when they meditated, and the main character, his whole thing was he's a reincarnation of an avatar. And I'm like, this is so steeped in the spirituality of what I was raised in that it feels like not representation in terms of like my ethnicity, because obviously I'm white, but representation in terms of, I guess, the culture that I grew up in, this religion that I grew up in. It was really unique.
It's cool to see that.
And it was cool to watch like the special features between episodes, or like at the tail end of an episode where they're like, oh yeah, this bending style is based on this martial art. I'm like, so much went into this.
So cool. Like
so much.
Only remember that water's bending is based on like Tai Chi. And like, that is so fucking cool.
Yeah. I was watching an episode recently where Aang and Katara are having a conversation and they're like bending the water between each other as they do it. Kind of that's just as like this very much like Tai Chi like exercise. It wasn't like they were trying to learn how to do it. They both knew how to do it. And it wasn't like an intensive thing. It was just like a casual like Tai Chi movement. I'm like, that's so cool. It's so much of our media is so Western.
Yeah.
And even a lot of anime, I feel like it's not that it's Western, but it's like anime feels like anime, if that makes sense.
No, I get that.
It feels like a lot of anime kind of pulls from its own culture that it's built over time and its own insanity. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily pulling from like the deeper spiritual roots of its world. Some of it is. So your Ghibli pulls from like nature and spirituality a lot.
Right.
But like TV anime, at least that I've seen, and admittedly I've seen very little. So I could just be like an idiot talking out of his ass.
Could be, but it's fine.
A lot of it is so like big lore, like My Hero Academia, I love, but it's like it's pulling from superheroes, from like Western style superheroes, and like Naruto is very much like just power. It's a power trip.
Yeah.
Fantasy show, and I enjoyed it as a kid, but it's not this.
Like that and like Dragon Ball Z, and like those are all, you know.
Yeah. But Bleach kind of had spirituality to it for a while, and then it also lost its shit.
Fair. But yeah, no, it's nice to see something that's like so ingrained in Eastern culture. You don't realize how little of that you see these days.
Yeah.
Well,
and like there's so many little details that I appreciate. Like the way that the drawings are very Eastern drawings, and like the emphasis on tea instead of like coffee. And it's just like these little things. Or the music is so Eastern.
Yes.
And it's these little things where it feels unique and cool. And I love it.
So good.
Now, that brings me to a second question. Not a second question. I've asked many questions, but another question. Have you seen The Legend of Korra?
Yes.
And if so, what are your thoughts?
Don't have as many memories or anything associated with Korra. I think I've seen it all the way through it once. But I was like, this is fun. But I didn't enjoy it that first time around as much as I did Avatar, so I haven't really gone back and rewatched it like all the way through again, like I have with Avatar.
Are you interested in trying to watch it again, or are you kind of just like, yeah, that exists, I don't really need to check it out?
I don't know. You know, I'm not sure. I've seen the discourse on Twitter. It's like this season. There's
a lot of discourse on Twitter right now.
I needed to mute it because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it. But maybe I'll go back. But I don't know. I don't have a huge desire to as much as I do with Avatar, and
I get it.
Have as much of an emotional connection to it. So,
what are there things from Korra that you remember liking? Like, are there things that stand out to you where you're like, oh, that's really cool?
I don't remember
what happens at all.
Like, yeah. I just know that I don't think I was a huge fan of it being so modernized, I guess. Because I think Korra feels way more Western than Avatar.
It does.
So
it definitely has a much more like Western influence.
It's a much different vibe, and I don't think I was a huge fan of how different it was. I'm like, I kind of like the same the Avatar shit.
Yeah.
It kind of went balls to the wall with some stuff that I wasn't a huge fan of. Like, I don't know, huge spirit battles.
Season 2 made some decisions.
That was season 2, right? With
where she becomes like the giant glowing avatar.
That's it.
Yeah, that was decisions that season 2 was bad. Season 2 was a rough time. In the world of Avatar.
I get it. That was season 3 then was with what was his name? I don't something with
Zahir.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, not the bending.
Yep.
I think I remember that being pretty cool and also pretty fucked up.
Season 3 is my favorite season of television ever made.
Fair. I think that's what I remember the most. In season 3.
Yeah.
And then
that's fair.
Season 4 was kind of whack too.
I remember liking season 4 overall. I wasn't super into the villain, but I want to rewatch it to see, because I feel like I was also coming off the high of season 3.
Okay.
So I want to rewatch season 4 and see if my opinion of it has soured more, or if because I feel like option 1 is my opinion of it sours more after a rewatch, but option 2 is I've kind of pulled back because I'm assuming that I'm overvaluing season 4. And I'll watch and be like, oh no, I actually dig this.
Okay.
And then so we'll see. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I love Korra overall.
Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. I just wasn't as like, oh my God, I love the show so much, the Avatar. So
I'm also interested to see, I want to buy the Korra Blu-ray box set once I finish rewatching Avatar, because I want to rewatch Korra and it's on Netflix, sadly.
Right.
Because I feel like when I watched Korra, I was in like my late teens, like early, like I was in my late teens.
Okay.
I was in high school / just getting out of high school. And I feel like I connected to Korra a lot because the characters were very much my age and they were dealing with things that very much were my age. Like in Avatar, they're young, but they don't feel like they're young the way you're young, you know? They're young dealing with like very different things than we deal with.
Yeah.
Whereas Korra was a lot of like, they're like semi-adults and they're being treated like semi-adults. So I connected a lot more with like some of the personal struggles that was happening there. But now that I'm older than that, I'm kind of curious to see if, now that I'm older than that, I can appreciate The Last Airbender more for what it's trying to say thematically, removed from the fact that like it's kids dealing with it. Yeah. So I'm curious to see if Last Airbender connects more with me than Korra does this time.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Fair.
I do very much love Korra, though. I'm very defensive of that show. Like, I get why people don't like it. I get that it is a big shift. Yeah. I understand that season 2 was bad. I understand that season 1 was rough. I don't like the pro bending. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that either. But,
yeah, I'm not a fan of pro bending. No. Like that's also part of the reason that I like season 3 and 4 so much, because pro bending isn't a thing. Right. But when it comes to like the show overall, I don't know, man. Korra was trying to do so much more. So I'm just like forgiving of its flaws, because The Last Airbender, like The Last Airbender's overall plot isn't that complicated.
Right.
It's like The Last Airbender is the original Star Wars trilogy. Okay. Korra is the prequels.
Okay. With like a lot of ideas and stuff, cool things.
Yeah, I don't mean Korra like was bad like the prequels, because again I love Korra. But like and you can factor the Clone Wars into the prequels when I say the prequels. Okay. But it's just like that era. We talked about this. Like, I think the era of the Clone Wars is really interesting because you have all these politics and you have all these like big ideas bashing against each other. And in the original trilogy, you have like, here's a bad fascist, deal with it. Yeah. And that's the world Avatar: The Last Airbender presents, is like, and I'm not saying that as a criticism, but that's a much simpler idea, and its purpose is that the show is a lot more personal. It is about these very personal, like, how do you as an individual make these decisions about your life and like these personal growths. But I feel like when they got to Korra, they're like, yeah, we've already said all of this stuff about the individual decisions you have to make in your own life. And I think now we kind of confront how spirituality confronts modernization and confronts new ideas. So they have like is bending like inherently like, does bending give people unfair advantages? Like, how do we treat the people who have no bending? Okay, what's happening?
Okay.
Cool. So that was a technical difficulty.
We're good now.
That was a fun time for us. What was I saying?
I don't know.
I know I was talking about Legend of Korra.
Yes.
I think I was saying that, like, because the prequels are a lot, and like the Clone Wars, just that era, are a lot more about like big questions, like big political questions. And I feel like that's a lot more like what Korra is too, where it is less about like what you as an individual feel, and it is more about like, you know, you have the first season where the question is about benders and non-benders and like what is morally right and just. And you have, like, on one hand, you're right. You do lose a lot of the Easternness to it, and that sucks. But at the same time, I also kind of feel like that's what it's about, is about an Eastern influence culture being not twisted, but like being advanced by a Western style of living.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
And like how that changes things, and how the spiritual merges. Because so much of Korra is about the spirit world. And like sometimes that doesn't work and sometimes it does, but it is very much about progress, I feel like. And it is about how progress and technology affects these things. Mm-hmm. Also, I just love Korra. Like, the reality is, I like Korra more as a character than Aang.
Okay. And
that helps a lot. Aang is fine. He is my least favorite of like Team Avatar. He's annoying sometimes. He can be stupid. And like he's a kid. That's like, I get it.
Yeah.
But I love Korra. I love her struggle. I love the amount of just like dark shit she goes through. Like, Legend of Korra gets so dark. Season 4 is just about her having PTSD.
Yikes, dude. Yeah.
Her look, especially in season 4, but just overall, is dope. She has a cool design. I love Asami too. Like, Asami's great.
That's valid. Yeah, I love her.
Her whole child of the rich industrialist. I feel like in a lot of ways Asami is a Zuko type, not in the sense of like she's the villain in the beginning, but she is, you know, she's the love triangle character. That's what she's originally introduced as, and she is the child of a very powerful person. And I feel like it is speaking a lot to the difference between these two shows, where in Legend of Korra, Asami is the child of someone in power, not because she's a royal, but because he's a businessman, and it makes you powerful in this new world.
Right.
And that's sick. I like it. Also, more bloodbending is cool.
Also fair.
Also, the Avatar 1 episodes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Do you just remember those existed?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've been seeing a lot of the Legend of Korra discourse. I have not muted it. Also because I haven't seen like a ton, I guess. Even though I just said I've seen a lot. But a consistent argument that I've seen with the Legend of Korra discourse is some people say things, and again, I get not liking it. I understand. But there are people who go at it and they're like, it's an objectively bad show. And I'm like, first of all, no.
Well, no, yeah.
But also a lot of people are like, oh, it's bad because it breaks the lore of Avatar. And that infuriates me. I hate it, Chloe.
Now that's just wrong. Come on, come on, people.
And I get their argument. I get what they're saying when they're like, oh, in the Avatar 1 episodes, they say that the lion turtles gave the people the bending ability, but in Avatar, we see stories where they're like, oh, people learned firebending from the dragons. They learned earthbending from the badger moles.
Right.
But it's you're ignoring the fact that like history is complicated and often inaccurate. So the narrative of like, oh, they learned it from this animal could be wrong, or could at the very least be a bit more complicated than that. But B, and here's my hot take. Here's the big thing I want to lay down on this podcast. And this goes for all storytelling. Your lore does not matter. I don't give a shit. I don't care. It could be Star Wars. It could be Harry Potter. It could be this. Lore is not this god that people make it out to be. And I hate how people act like it is. I really hate it. So much.
Okay. Interesting.
Because, like, not that I'm saying just like do whatever the fuck you want with a narrative, but a lot of stories are not about. It's like the CinemaSins brand of film criticism, you know, where they're like, "Oh, this thing doesn't make sense," and it's like, in stories, things don't always have to make sense. A lot of times, you're trying to achieve a certain purpose. You're trying to convey a certain message, and sometimes, if you're completely logical all the time, you can't tell that story. But you don't need to be completely logical because the intent matters. And yes, you could tell a story very badly where it's so obviously like broken logic that it just pulls you out. But that doesn't always happen. Like The Dark Knight. I think I said this on the podcast before. The Dark Knight breaks its own rules constantly. But it's a beloved movie because people don't notice because it's trying to achieve a certain effect. So and the same thing goes with like Avatar. Avatar is such a spiritually based show and such a thematically based show. And you're telling me that you're upset with The Legend of Korra because in the process of seeking new themes and new spiritual based ideas to investigate, it is somewhat breaking an established thing that I've like. I hate it. I just feel like it's this problem that we're seeing across a lot of things with like Star Wars and with Avatar. People are like, oh, that breaks the rules. That's not how it works. And I'm like, who cares? Like, if it's not done well, like, yeah, I think that the healing thing in Rise of Skywalker isn't done very well. But not because I think that it's a bad thing to introduce. I just think it's introduced mediocrely. Yeah,
it's just kind of a dumb thing. Yeah, like
they're just like, here it is, and I'm like, okay.
Like I think the criticisms of like Last Jedi that I don't agree with is like, oh, I don't like how they introduced blank force power. I'm like, well, that's the one part I don't mind about the movie. I've got plenty of other problems, and that's not it.
I love the telekinetic thing that goes on in The Last Jedi and like the Luke transporting himself. I think that's super cool. And I mean, new powers are introduced to the Force all the time. New powers were introduced to the Force in the Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi. We hadn't seen Force lightning until the third movie. Like when
do whatever the fuck you want with the Force. I don't know. Nobody gets it.
And like, yes, I like the Force as a spiritual thing. So if you veer too much away from that, but that's kind of my point is like, I don't care about the lore as long as the thing you're using it for is thematically interesting. For me, Star Wars, and people can argue that they disagree with my perception of what Star Wars is about. So that's fair. But from my perspective, Star Wars is about its spirituality and its themes. And if you introduce new lore things, new Force things that connect to that, I don't care. And you do it well. I don't care. But if you're being like, oh, Luke can actually time travel, I'm like, okay, that's a little out there. I don't know what the spiritual thing you're telling me here is. But even then, if you're like, hey, Luke can see into the past, like not travel to it, but like see it, I'm like, okay, I see the spirituality there. Sure. Time doesn't really exist. Sure. It's just like, do something interesting with it. If you're doing something interesting with it, I don't care. Break whatever you want, especially because Legend of Korra is created by the same people. It's not like new people are coming in and like ruining an established franchise. It's like, this is their world.
It's the same people. Yeah.
And I've heard criticisms of Korra where people are like, oh, and I know I'm going on a rant. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I've heard criticisms of Korra where people are like, oh, you're really telling me that 100 years ago, they barely had like drills? Like they 100 years ago, they like barely had blimps. That's the better one. And now they have like a giant robot. And I'm like, look, I understand what you're saying. However, metal bending exists. I feel like that kind of just fundamentally shifts what is and is not possible with giant metal things. But B, And more importantly, they could have set Korra 300 years later, but it would have been less interesting. It was interesting because Korra was the successor to Aang. It was interesting because Korra was connected to people who were connected to Aang. If you set it, maybe it would have been more realistic to set it 300 years later and have giant metal robots. But it would have been less interesting in so many other ways that who gives a shit? Just accept it.
Yeah.
And you can say, I don't like the giant metal robot because I just think it's like dumb. And I fully am okay with that argument. But if your argument is you don't like it because it doesn't make realistic sense with the timeline, calm the fuck down.
Yeah. It's
It's the same thing with like The 100 is a show that I like a lot. And in that show, they are in space for 100 years before coming back to Earth. And in that span, a new civilization has been built, not like an R-level civilization, but like a tribal community with their own language that is a variation of English, but not English exactly. And that makes no sense. It makes no sense that it took 100 years for them to forget English and invent an English-ish language that is kind of like, it's not like a new dialect. It's like, I can't understand what they're saying whatsoever. That would have taken hundreds upon hundreds of years. But there are interesting thematic things that you can do with the story because you have this new culture existing and this new language, and because it's only been 100 years since humans left Earth. So I don't care.
It's fine. Just have fun.
I accept what it gives me for and ignore that it just doesn't make perfect sense. It's like, yes, to a certain degree, don't break your own rules. Like,
right.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. There are movies where it's like, okay, I just saw this on Twitter, referencing M. Night Shyamalan again.
Okay.
In his movie The Village, which I've never seen, I guess the story is that this girl has to like go out to get something, and she discovers that she doesn't actually live in like the past society that she thinks she lives in.
Yeah.
And someone tweeted, and they're like, why wouldn't you just send out an elder who knows that to get this thing? Like, why wouldn't that just solve all your problems? And I haven't seen the movie. I can't speak to like if that's explained at all. But someone's response was, well, in Iron Man, like he should die the second he like touches the ground because of the speed he's going. Or like there's a movie where Thor throws a magical hammer, and her argument was, the response to that, her argument was, right, but that's a world presenting me its own logic, and I have to accept the logic it's presented me. The Village is a world presenting me like basic human logic, and it just breaks it. And I think that's my thing with like, that I think is a limitation of lore, but Korra doesn't do that. Even if you say it doesn't make sense for a robot to exist after 100 years from where Avatar was, it's like, but it's not our world. So prove that to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
like,
fair, yeah.
Like computers existed in the 70s-ish, like big IBM saw computers existed in the 70s-ish, and like 100 years before that was the Civil War. Like if someone wrote that story,
to think about, honestly.
Right. But if someone wrote that story and someone was like, it doesn't make sense for it to have only taken 100 years for this thing to exist, it's like, I get that. You could easily say that about the way our world has progressed.
Yeah, true, that too, you know?
So I hate this lore argument. I really hate it. I feel like, and it's so much a smokescreen for people just hating change. Because The Last Airbender breaks its own lore a bunch. I was rewatching the last few episodes of season 3 because I wanted to see good Zuko. And I didn't get to the final episode because I'm saving that for my full rewatch. But there's an episode early on when Aang first meets Ko, the face stealer, and Ko is like, I met you before 800 or 900 years ago. And then in season 3, Aang speaks to some of his past lives in like the final story arc, Sozin's Comet. And he meets the waterbender that came before him. So like 3 Avatar cycles ago. And the waterbender is like, oh, Ko stole my beloved. And like, I failed. So that means that it went waterbender, earthbender, which is Kyoshi, firebender, Roku, and then Aang. And if we assume that each life lasts 100 years, maybe. And then we factor in Aang's 100-year gap of not being around, that means that 400 years must have passed at most between the water guy who lost his love to Ko. And like, that's a very big nitpick. I'm not saying it's significant, but my point is you can find these in Avatar itself if you want to. Mm-hmm. People just don't because they like Avatar and they don't like the change that comes with Korra.
You're right.
And like, if you want to get so hung up on like, oh, well, like, I don't like what the Avatar wand stuff does for like the lore of like bending. And I'm like, okay, but it's not like the Force. It's not like they're like, oh, because it's not like midichlorians in the Force. It's not like you're taking something that is inherently spiritual and making it not spiritual. It's like you said that you learned it from animals, and now you're saying that you learned it from different animals. It's the same thing. It
Same
also
concept,
makes a lot. It also explains nationality being a factor a lot more, because if the argument is you just learned it from watching animals bend, then why can't anyone learn any element? But if the argument is it was gifted to you by the lion turtles and each one gifted a different group of people a different bending, then that makes sense. And again, I'm not saying I need that explained to me, but it also makes sense. It's logical. As you can see, I'm frustrated by this.
I can tell. That's fine.
Anyway, that's my rant about why I like The Legend of Korra, and also why lore doesn't matter. Lore doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about the 30 volumes of Star Wars lore you've read about that answers every possible question known to man. I don't give a shit. I like Star Wars because the Force is magical and spiritual, and I connect deeply with the balancing of it all. And like, yes, I love new stories in the Star Wars universe. I dig the Clone Wars. I love the politics of it all. But doesn't mean I need to be told everything. That doesn't mean that I need the explanation for everything. I don't care. I don't care.
Star Wars cool guy lightswords. They go brr.
It's like in fucking Greek mythology, things contradict each other constantly. There was no set in stone like official canon of Greek mythology. They were kind of just like, yeah, the Greek gods exist. We'll do whatever we want with them.
Yeah.
And now we're like, the Star Wars lore must be upheld. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has to perfectly connect with itself. This is why I like DC. Because Birds of Prey came in, they're like, yeah, Joker's not the Joker that you saw on Suicide Squad, but Harley is the Harley you saw on Suicide Squad. Sure.
Yeah,
and I'm
sure.
like,
okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It works.
Just say fuck it. People aren't stupid.
Exactly. Well, and also people are, so yeah, either way.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Chloe, what do you feel like is the difference between a good and bad adaptation? Like, what is an example to you of a good adaptation you've seen of something you care about? And then we have this with the movie.
And then we have this, where choices were made.
Yes. A lot of choices. Right. And there are some adaptations where it's like they're just better adaptations than the source material. Like I know like Starship Troopers is a movie I like a lot, and the source material is apparently super fascist. Okay. I remember liking that movie the most of the Hunger Games series. So as someone, did you say you watched all the Hunger Games movies? Okay. So do you feel like the other Hunger Games movies are poorer adaptations, or do you just feel like those are stories you don't care about as much in comparison to Catching Fire? Okay. It is very fun. What makes you feel like it's a good adaptation? Is it just like it's telling the story effectively, or it's maintaining the themes? I realize that because we're talking about The Last Airbender, it's like, what makes it good in comparison is like everything. Stuck. They did. Yeah. And I think the big thing is like, yes, respect the source material where you can. I know that there are adaptations that don't. Like, I know that there are adaptations like Jojo Rabbit is based on a book, and the comedy of Jojo Rabbit and the entire fake like fantasy Hitler thing is introduced by the movie. It didn't exist in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And Jojo Rabbit is also only telling part of the story the book told. The book went on much longer.
Yeah.
But so the thing that I was told by my adaptation teacher when I was a screenwriting major, way back was when you're adapting a material, the thing that matters the most is the theme. You can change other things if you feel like you need to, as long as you're maintaining like the fundamental idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how true that is. I feel like I've seen adaptations that say fuck, like literally Starship Trooper is a perfect example. Starship Trooper, the book is fascist. It is a fascist text. And the movie is parodying the story essentially by turning fascism into a joke, because the writer came in and got hired for it. And he was like, well, I can't just adapt this book as is, because this book as is horribly problematic. So I have to turn it into essentially a farce of itself.
Yeah.
So there are exceptions. I don't know how common those exceptions are, but I feel like that's my big issue with this movie is like, it's fundamentally ignoring what makes Avatar interesting.
Right.
And like what matters within the source material.
Literally ignored every single important aspect of what made Avatar Avatar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is everything bad?
Dude. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of what it is an adaptation that I really like. I think that... I love Little Women. We just talked about that. I love Little Women. Okay. And I haven't read the book, as I've said before, so I can't speak exactly to it. But Little Women presents its own ideas. It takes Louisa May Alcott's feelings and themes, but it also presents like focusing it more on the idea of publishing and that being a focus, and it changes the timelines around and everything, and it changes stuff, but it's still very much about these people. And like, I don't know, it's hard. It's also because Little Women's not the first adaptation, so I feel like it has more freedom. Like if it was the first time they were adapting the book, I feel like they get more flack for changing things around, but because it's like the 60th time, they're like, we can do whatever we want.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Adaptations are hard.
They are. Yeah.
Transformers is a great example. Transformers is something where it's like, they lost a lot of what made Transformers. They focused on the humans and like
exactly instead of the Transformers idiots. Come on. Yeah.
And I'm not super versed in what Transformers the series is about, really, like thematically, but I feel like just by the nature of making it about the humans, it probably thematically isn't. I feel like you can probably confirm or deny that. What is Transformers about?
They're just robots vibing. I don't remember like the original series too much. Yeah, one day I'll go back and rewatch all that. But there are humans in that too, and I can't remember how much they focus on them.
If I remember correctly from things I've been told, and I've seen like a couple episodes, I feel like the humans were a lot more side characters. I feel like it was they
definitely were.
The Transformers were the main characters, and the humans were always there. It was like I feel like Transformers was a lot like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where it's like the turtles are the main characters.
Yes,
but then you also have like April.
Fair. Yeah. No, that's true. I did just watch the original movie, so that was the humans are just kind of like there, but mostly you're just focusing on the big robots and they go pew pew and it's fun.
Yeah. And that's what this movie does so badly. It just
so poorly.
It doesn't understand its source material at all.
No.
Like it's okay to change certain things as needed. I understand that. And I'm not an expert on what you should and should not change. Maybe it's kind of a case by case basis of what is and is not acceptable to change. But oof. Maybe
start with not casting your Asian cast as white people.
That is a big part. That is a big thing.
Start there.
Maybe keep the names. Maybe just like the little things that could easily appease your fans.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna change things. If you're gonna change things, have a good reason. I feel like. If you also, it's hard because there are things where I'm like, yeah, I want to adapt this, but I see a different take on it. So that's different. But I feel like this movie isn't trying to be something else.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't feel like it's approaching Avatar and being like, oh, I like the idea here, but I want to do something else with the narrative. It kind of just feels like it doesn't know what to do with anything at all. It has no voice.
Right.
If you're going to adapt something, at least have a voice. I might disagree with your voice. I might think the voice is bad, but at least have a voice. This movie has no voice.
No, it really doesn't. It's just like, ha ha ha. Nope.
Yep. Do you have any other thoughts about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show, about Korra, about the movie? If you want to go back to that more.
Movie's just hot garbage. Never watch it.
Such hot garbage.
Watch the show. It's on Netflix now. Don't get it confused with the movie, which is also on Netflix. Just watch the animated show.
Yeah. And we're also going to be getting a live action Netflix show eventually. I think
true.
Still.
Maybe?
Is that happening?
Apparently. At least it's by the original creators.
I will say when I went to watch this movie, I searched Last Airbender on Netflix and it pulled up 3 options. It pulled up the show, it pulled up the movie, and then it pulled up a placeholder with the words The Last Airbender, which I'm assuming is the placeholder for the live action TV show. Weird that it's up already, but yeah. I'm assuming based on that existing that they're not intending to not make it now. Also, because Avatar is doing so well on the platform, I'd be amazed if they back out.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you want a live action adaptation?
No.
Yeah. No. Because the original creators are involved, I will watch it or at least give it a try.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I want that.
I'm not actively looking forward to it, and I'm not going to pass any judgment until I see some stuff, but
yeah.
At least I trust it'll be a little better since it's the original creators and all that.
Yeah. But, and it's such a big point for me watching the show now where I'm like, how did anyone watch this action and think this would work in live action?
Yeah.
Because so much of it is cartoon.
There's so much you're limited by reality.
Yeah.
Which, I know CGI can only do so much with CGI.
So unless you're spending an exorbitant amount of money.
Right. Which how much are you realistically doing?
And also just the TV show's animation is good.
Yeah.
It's not like it's an ugly animated show.
No, it's not horribly outdated or anything. It still holds up. Yeah.
It's really well done.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be interesting, I feel like. I'm curious to see if making it live action turns Avatar into a Game of Thrones caliber thing. Because I feel like everyone's looking for the next Game of Thrones. I don't know if we'll ever get one. But
yeah,
Avatar is one of the few epics, because it is an epic. It's one of the few epics I can think of where it actually stuck the landing.
Right.
That's the thought I've been getting watching the show every day that I've been re-binging it. Is just, it's amazing that I never appreciated that this is a grand scale epic. This is on the caliber of Game of Thrones at its best and Lord of the Rings and all these things.
Right.
And so many shows keep trying to be that. And they're like, Game of Thrones. And it's falls apart. Westworld, bad after one season.
Yeah.
And here's Avatar.
Stick the landing. It was perfect.
Pulling it off. Really it is a good show.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the movie one last time, because I'm going to talk about the reception this movie got.
Oh God. Okay.
It might have made money. It made about 320 million worldwide. Its production budget was 150 million. But again, as we've talked about, you always have to factor in marketing. And I feel like the marketing for this movie was pretty big. So at best, I'm thinking 320 probably means it broke even, which isn't terrible. That means you didn't lose any money on it, but that's also me thinking at best. There's a possibility that they spent 350 and made 320 and lost money.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that they didn't make any more, they definitely weren't swimming in it. It has a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, which makes it the worst reviewed movie we have ever talked about.
Nice. All right. That title is not being held by Transformers anymore. Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank God. Jesus Christ.
That's what we're really here for. Would you like to hear some of my favorite snippets of reviews about this movie?
I would love to.
Ain't It Cool News said, Burdened by a never-ending onslaught of expository dialogue awkwardly delivered by actors giving career worst performances across the board, The Last Airbender is so outrageously bad, it's a wonder it ever got before cameras.
All right.
Now, that's the tame review of the two I have.
Ooh,
because,
okay.
Actually, I have three. Sorry. There's another one. Riff Tracks put the film at number 5 of the top 10 worst movies of all time.
What a great honor.
And they said, we can state for the record that it is quite easy to detest this movie even if you've never seen a frame of the TV show, which I feel like is an important thing to point out, that like the show isn't bad because it warps things from TV. Mm-hmm. Because like you only owe the original fans so much. It's not like I think that you have to perfectly appease them. I'm not here for fan service. Mm-hmm. It's just bad.
Yeah.
Again, that's like my point with the lore too, where it's like, I'm not saying that you should break any rule and do whatever the hell you want. I'm saying if it serves the overall themes, do what is necessary. Like, it's fine. At the end of the day, theme matters the most. And this movie has none of it.
No.
Now,
No.
The spiciest review.
Ooh, let's hear it. Let's get spicy.
Charlie Jane Anders for IO9 said, Shyamalan's true achievement in this film is that he takes a thrilling cult TV series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he systematically leeches all the personality and soul out of it in order to create something generic enough to serve as a universal spoof of every epic ever.
Nailed it. Honestly, there is no personality in this movie.
That's very true. Also, and this hadn't occurred to me until I read this review, which I read like halfway through watching the movie because I could not put my full attention towards the movie. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
This movie really does feel like a parody. Like so much of Avatar feels beautiful and like scenic. And this movie feels like every bad epic movie I've ever seen. It feels generic as all hell. Avatar is often quoted as this like great world building, and like so many YouTube, like so many video essays I've seen about world building have talked about Avatar as a great example, or have talked about like the bending system as great hard magic systems. And also like to a degree, sure, but the Avatar's like abilities also break the hard magic system constantly, which is another lore point I want to point out. Just like Avatar does whatever it wants already. Calm down. Yeah. But it's like the fact that I don't know what I was saying. I fully lost my train of thought.
Nice. Okay.
Where was I? One moment. World building. Lore. But yeah, like this movie feels like a boring, like the powers don't feel cool. The bending doesn't feel cool anymore.
No.
The world that's been built doesn't feel cool. It just kind of feels like people with magic in a fantasy world. Like every other fantasy world.
Exactly. Generic fantasy world. Like, okay, cool. Thank you.
And I feel like that's one of the big things that lost by kind of stripping out the Eastern philosophy and the Eastern influence, because it just did feel a lot more like a generic fantasy world with a few Eastern inspired decorations, which I've seen in other fantasy stories before. Like I've seen bits and pieces be taken from Eastern architecture. Yeah. It's the philosophy and the fundamentals that made it good.
Exactly.
Another quote from the same reviewer, Charlie Jane Anders, said, actually, my exact words when I walked out of this film were, wow, this makes Dragon Ball Evolution look like a masterpiece. Which is vicious. I actively burst out laughing when I read that.
Man. Yikes.
I've never heard a more scathing review in my life.
I know. Oh my God. I mean,
Charlie Jane Anders hated this movie.
Yeah.
I get it though, because like I watched it and I was like, wow, maybe I don't hate The Rise of Skywalker as much as I thought I did.
Now that
at least its cinematography is competent. It's not good, but it functions.
Yeah. At least there were themes.
Kind of. They were poorly executed, but they existed. At
least Rise of Skywalker had like a little more personality.
And characters didn't feel like super awkward every time they spoke to each other.
True.
The dialogue might have been stupid, but the actual acting wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still hate Rise of Skywalker, but like it did make me hate it a bit less. Just by comparison, I was like, oh, this is the bottom of the barrel.
This is the worst we're ever gonna get. Yeah. Makes Rise of Skywalker look good. That's how bad this is.
This movie was nominated for countless Razzie Awards.
Good.
If you don't know, for the audience, Razzie Awards are a annual like celebration of the worst movies of the year. I have some issue with the Razzies existing. I feel like it's kind of problematic. Also, a friend of mine just texted me to talk about how she'd watched a movie she really liked and found out that it had been nominated or even won a Razzie. Oh. And she was like, I feel like this movie is very like feminine in terms of like its narrative. And I feel like maybe, and she was like looking at the Razzies overall and she's like, I feel like the Razzies might have a bias towards like not respecting feminine movies, which is possible.
That would make sense.
I have my issues with the Razzies. I feel like the Razzies are a bit cinema sinsy in their own way.
Yeah, but I get it.
That said, I will point out that this movie was nominated for worst screenplay, worst director, and worst movie, and it won all of them. Well, it was nominated for some acting things as well, but I'm not going to bring that up because I think it's not fair to hold the acting against the actors. They might have been bad actors. They might have been good actors. I've seen the prequels. I know what director can do to good actors.
Yeah. Yikes.
Conversely, Avatar: The Last Airbender won a Peabody Award and an Emmy.
Good.
Just the two polar opposites of cinematic quality.
Truly.
In the same origin point.
Wow. You love to see it.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show is also ranked in Vanity Fair's 30 best animated TV shows of all time, IndieWire's 36th best animated, or it's IndieWire's 36th best animated show of all time, and it's in TV Guide's 60 greatest animated series of all times lists. I looked through IndieWire's list because it is ranked in comparison to TV Guides and Vanity Fair, which seemed like they're just kind of like naming shows. I don't agree with a lot of the shows they put above it in best animated series of all time.
Okay.
It's in there. They put like BoJack Horseman at number 1, and BoJack Horseman's great. I love it, but I don't think it's the best animated show of all time. Okay, I think Avatar: The Last Airbender also deserves to be much higher. Like much higher. I put Phineas and Ferb above it, and I'm like, I love Phineas and Ferb, but Phineas and Ferb over Avatar?
No, not really.
You're making decisions, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Like Simpsons was number 2, and I get Simpsons because it's like such a classic where it's like, on one hand, you could argue that Simpsons has run so long that you have to judge it by its poorer seasons. But on the other hand, you have to also acknowledge that Simpsons is like incredibly significant. I don't fucking know. I'm not a TV expert.
Okay, fair.
Chloe, I have a couple games for you. Nothing serious because this was a much different formatted episode. But who is the hottest Avatar character? It's time for, of course, Nailed It with Chloe Naylor.
I mean, Zuko.
Yeah.
You know, that's yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. That yes, you have to say. Had a crush on Zuko my whole life. Wow.
As a child, I had a crush on like 3 characters. I had a crush on Suki, I had a crush on Katara, and I had a crush on Ty Lee, and I stand by all of them. Also, of course, I had a crush on Ty Lee, who didn't.
Who didn't have a crush?
I feel like every boy was in love with Ty Lee, and probably a lot of girls.
You know, yes. Everybody in that show's great.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sokka's great too. Like I know a lot of people who have crushes on Sokka, and I'm like valid.
That too.
And people who have crushes on Toph, and I'm like valid.
Also valid.
I don't know anyone with a crush on Aang.
No.
Except Katara for some reason.
For some reason.
Were you a Zutara or a Katara Aang shipper, or were you neither?
Oh, Zutara. You kidding me?
I gotta ask.
Oh, no, totally. Damn all the way. I'm still upset about it. All these years later.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You're robbed.
Did you have any other ships in the show, or were you just like Zutara is all I care about?
Like, I didn't really, No, that was really about it. Because I always kind of like the idea. I mean, like, neither was I. Like, I didn't even know what shipping was at the time. I mean, me neither.
Yeah. I always kind of liked the idea of Toph and Aang. I felt like they, like, actually challenged each other because Katara was always so nice with Aang, and I'm like, someone needs to tell Aang to shut the fuck up.
Okay, that's fair. So
I'm not saying that was like Toph is Aang's one true love, and I'm still watching the show right now, and I'm like, I don't even know if I agree with that feeling. But I feel like they have better chemistry than Katara and Aang do, romantically at least.
Yeah.
Katara and Aang's romantic chemistry
I
is,
never, never, yeah.
And I know that Katara and Zuko are 3 years apart. That is kind of weird. Like she's 14, he is 17 at the end of the show. That is odd. But also, Aang is 12. Why are we giving Aang
that's also
a love interest? That's my thing. Is like Aang is a child.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Korra came out and Aang and Katara had gotten together, I think I'd be a lot less uncomfortable with it than I am seeing them get together at the end of Last Airbender.
Yeah.
If it was just like, yeah, they grew up and started dating, I'd be like, okay, sure, I see it. They spent a lot of time together. They grew up. They became adults. Sure. It's the fact that they got together this young where I'm like, At
the end of the show, he is 13, she is 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I do. I definitely was a Zutara shipper. I didn't have that terminology, but I did finish the show and I was like, it's weird that Katara and Zuko didn't get together. I feel like it was going that direction.
No, it kind of, seemed like it. The whole, whatever. Okay, sure, with Aang. That makes sense. Because a teenage girl would definitely go for the tiny little boy instead of edgelord with the scar. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Do you think it was a decision made by the creators, or do you think it was like Disney being like, she has to end up with Aang? Or not Disney, Nickelodeon, sorry.
Oh, I have no clue. I'm assuming that's just where the creators wanted it to go.
To a degree, I agree with you. Like, I just assume it is. But I do sometimes find it weird how much it seemed to be pushing. Like, because Katara went with Zuko for the final Agni Kai.
Yeah.
It just seems like so many things happen that lean Katara Zuko. And I've seen arguments against Katara Zuko that I understand. Like, I don't think there aren't invalid arguments against it. But still, the narrative just felt like it was pushing that way a lot at the end.
Definitely did. I mean, also like the end of season 2 when they're in the crystal caves together. And she's like, I have this magical healing water. I could heal your scar. And almost did. But
yeah.
Okay, sure. End up with Aang. Okay.
And in Korra 2, they had to fight for Korrasami to be a thing, which I love.
Good.
And they had to, because like they're cute. And Mako was a shitty love interest. But I feel like the fact they had to fight so hard to get Korrasami to happen and they barely got it to happen, I could see Nickelodeon having a similar thing where it's not like, obviously, like we don't want a gay relationship on the show, but it could have been them being like, we don't want to put the girl with the guy who was a villain the entire time. Like maybe they're like, we feel like that's weird. We aren't comfortable with that. And the creators, were planning to do another show. So maybe I don't know. I don't want to assume that they intended for Zutara. I don't want to like retcon what is their art and their story. But sometimes I wonder.
I wonder too. Always. Who could have been? Mourn it.
I'm thinking about Ty Lee now.
Valid.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I think I'm just upset that I don't like how Zuko ended up with May.
I agree. I wish. Okay, here's my thing with May. I like May and Zuko's relationship. I feel like the problem with ending the show with them together is that even if realistically they're kids and they could break up eventually, when you end a show with these characters together, you interpret it as like they live happily ever after. This is what happens,
right? And
especially like the way this show ended, like Sing Street, it ended with the characters together, and that I definitely interpreted as like it couldn't necessarily, it could possibly not, you know what I mean? Yeah. But in this show, with this style of narrative, the way it ends up, it feels like, oh, this is like it.
That's it, yeah.
I wish May had died. I wish when May decided to turn against Zuko, or not turn against Zuko, turn against Azula to save Zuko, that May had died. Because I feel like that would have worked better. Okay. It wouldn't have denied that Zuko cared about her. It wouldn't have, because it would have felt weird, I feel like, for May to save him and talk about how much she loves Zuko, and then for Zuko to get with Katara at the end. That probably would have felt weird. Because it was like 3 episodes between each other. But
true.
But if she died,
right,
and Zuko was just like, yeah, like I cared about her a lot, and I'm broken up about this, but also like realistically, I wasn't in love with her. And Katara and him can like connect about that or something, and he can talk with Sokka about losing your love.
Right. and all that.
Yeah. Oh, Yue.
Oh, Yue. That's rough.
Have you seen all the Avatar TikToks?
Oh yeah.
There's so many now.
There's a lot
There's
now.
so many.
I
saw a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the audio is from, but it's the caption is like Suki talking to Sokka, and the audio is like, "I'm gonna fight the moon." It's great.
Yeah. Valid. Oh man. Love the show.
Chloe,
So great.
what would you if you were an executive with the power over all of this and an adaptation about Avatar: The Last Airbender was being thrown around, what would you do?
Oh,
would you
God.
just not make it happen? Would you actually, let's say you had to. Let's say they came to you and they're like, hey, we are making a movie based on Avatar: The Last Airbender. But anything is on the table aside from the fact that it has to be based on Avatar: The Last Airbender. It could be a different avatar. It could be anything. It just has to be based on this property. What would you want to do? What would your executive decision be?
How about?
Because I can tell you immediately, I would not try and adapt the established story because I don't think that works at all. Into a movie, at least.
No, definitely no. If anything, if I had to adapt this story already, it would be a TV show.
Yeah.
Don't try to cram all that stuff into a single movie. Don't do that.
Because unlike M. Night Shyamalan, who for some reason watched the show and went, this should be a movie, we have the brain cells necessary to go, no, this should not be a movie.
That's way too much information to put into a, say, like 2.5 hour movie, even at most, but still. No, how about you? I would still make a TV show, but you make it about a different avatar. I don't know.
So you'd make Legend of Korra.
I guess, yeah, I would make Legend of Korra again. I don't know if it would
Or would
be
you
like,
make like
the future or like one of his past lives, because that'd be pretty cool too.
I think that's what I would do if I were told, hey, make a movie adaptation. I'm going to assume I have to make a movie adaptation, because if I had to make a TV show, I'd be like, why am I adapting a TV show when they're still making the TV show, and also when they're planning to make Legend of Korra? But if they're like, hey, adapt this into a movie, I'd be like, cool. So we're not telling the story that is there, because why would we? Best case scenario, this movie's popular and it gets people invested in it and they'll go watch this movie. I think I would, I'd go back to the past. You know what I would probably do? Maybe I wouldn't. What I would possibly do, maybe just make the Avatar 1 episodes into a movie.
Okay.
And it doesn't even have to be like a straight adaptation. It could just be like if this was happening at the time of M. Night Shyamalan making this movie, then Legend of Korra doesn't exist yet. So just like go back to like the first Avatar, or if you don't want to go back to the first Avatar, which valid, maybe I wouldn't either. Just go back to a past Avatar and tell a story with them. Yeah. There's no way Aang is the first Avatar to have like a serious mess to deal with. I
know. Look at what Kyoshi was doing. That was pretty dope. Do that. The Water Tribe guy lost his fucking love to Ko, the face seal. How horrifying is that? That's a horror movie. Oh, here's what I'll do. I'll make a movie from the perspective of the Cabbage Man.
Oh my God. Brilliant.
Yes.
I will make a movie from the perspective of like a one guy whose mouth froths every time he sees the Avatar.
Yeah, that's a fun guy. Just goes absolutely feral seeing the Avatar.
We did it. We figured it out.
All right, perfect. We got it.
Would your movie about the Cabbage guy be about how he starts Cabbage Corp?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do it. Oh,
okay. This is a long episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chloe, what are your closing thoughts?
Don't watch the movie. Go watch the show.
Don't watch the movie. Yeah.
Go watch Korra again too. That's fine. Just any Avatar property, it's great. Just don't touch the movie.
Season 3, top notch.
Fair.
Korra's season 4 style, excellent.
Fair. Yeah.
Bolin, great. Mako, not so great.
Yeah, he's kind of shitty.
Stupid.
Very dumb. Never liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the show.
Chloe, if people liked, not the Last Airbender movie, because who would? But if people like Avatar: The Last Airbender, is there another movie or show you'd recommend for them?
Ooh. That's a good question.
While you're thinking, I didn't think of this question either because I forgot we had it. But one of the head writers for for the Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the creator, but the head writer, is the creator, I believe, of The Dragon Prince on Netflix, which is a show I've not seen a ton of. I wasn't super sold on it.
Yes.
From what I saw, but I've heard it got really good. And that is, you know, like it's very much based in like a lot of similar talent that made this show, made that show. So that could be a good one, maybe.
I would recommend that because I've seen The Dragon Prince. I love that show. I would absolutely recommend it. And also, dragons are cool. Come on. But yeah, no, yeah.
I'm going to recommend Gravity Falls.
Okay.
Because it is also like a short, contained story. It's 2 seasons instead of 3, so it's even shorter than The Last Airbender. It's definitely a very different vibe, and it's a lot more like sciencey and science magic based than like Eastern philosophy magic based. Okay. But I really like Gravity Falls. It has cool characters. It's definitely a different vibe. It's not philosophical in the same way. But some fuck shit happens by the end of that show. Some fuck shit happens.
Fascinating.
Point is, children's television has some really good TV.
Some real good shit out there.
Honestly, good shit.
I haven't finished it, but Steven Universe is probably real good.
I've heard great things about it. I have not seen it. I
was very into it at the beginning, and then I kind of fell off of it. And then I heard it got really good again. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out eventually. It's just there's so many seasons.
There's a lot of season universe though, so yeah.
Avatar is like easily digestible. I'm like 3 seasons, 20 episodes each. Done.
It's true. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Chloe, is there a cool thing you've done or seen this week?
I just forgot about this question. Like, what have I done? Okay. So I saw you last Tuesday. What did I talk about since then? I'm going back and playing through Uncharted 4 again.
Right? You've been streaming it?
18th time. Yeah.
You're on crushing mode, right?
Yes. The hardest difficulty.
How is that?
It's a little crushing at times, you know? So it's a little rough, but like it's not too. No, I've played the game enough times where I know what to expect, but
right. You don't need people in your comments mansplaining it to you.
You ever played Uncharted before? You like Rafe?
Go this direction.
Homie, I've played this game so many. This is one of my top games of all time.
You see, this is how a gun shoots.
Oh my god! And then people are like surprised that I like Rafe, and I'm like, he's in my intro video. And if you don't see that on my streams, he is the follower alert. So you see Rafe every single fucking stream, and you don't think. And then people are like, "Hey, you ever think he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal?" I'm like, "Where have you been?"
Uncharted. First of all, everyone thinks it looks like Jake Gyllenhaal. No one. This is not a new idea. A. B. Yeah. I feel like Uncharted is the first thing I really knew about you.
Yeah.
Like before the whole like, oh, she's into robots thing, or like she's in love with General Grievous, or like she thinks Syndrome is attractive. I think Syndrome might have actually been like the second thing I found out about you.
I think that was but Uncharted was the first.
And Uncharted was the first. Uncharted is the thing that I associate you with the most.
Also fair that you met me at a PSX and I was crying outside of the escape room I couldn't get into, but yes.
Yes. I distinctly remember it. Also, I have the photos to prove it.
Good times.
Yeah.
I miss events.
How much do you have left in Uncharted 4, do you think?
I'm right at the end. I think my next stream, I'll probably stream it on Friday. I'll be done.
So you're saying if you want... So this podcast comes out on Thursdays. So audiences, if you're listening to this on the day of release or the day after release, but not Friday night, and you want to see Chloe experience Rafe's death again, which I know I do, tune in.
Yeah. No. I'm curious to see, because I used to like go back and just play that boss fight as like a stress relief on crushing sometimes.
That makes no sense.
I don't know why I would, but then I would quit out right before the end. Why is it relieving
to you to watch the love of your life die?
Why do you think I watched all the way through? No, I stopped right at the end. I have like perfected that fight. So like I can get through that fight easily and then I'll probably quit and then let myself die a bunch of times. So like,
I see. I have seen your dying at the hands of Rafe montage.
It's a really fun montage.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
I watched like a shit ton of movies the week before, as you know, because I mentioned that. I haven't watched that many. I watched His Girl Friday, which is like an old movie about a reporter. And it was good. It was fun. It was funny. It made some decisions about men that I don't like.
Okay.
Because she ends up with this one guy, and I'm like,
interesting.
You deserve better.
Gotcha.
He's the worst.
Yikes.
Like you're also doing some bad. You're also making some bad, unfair decisions, but also like you deserve better. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I've been watching The Last Airbender mostly, like the TV show with my sister. That's been the majority of my time. That's free.
Valid. Good.
Yeah. Chloe, next week we are kind of continuing with the theme started by this movie, although we're not calling it this movie's week that theme. We're talking about adaptations. Which I'm excited for because there's a lot of good adaptations in movies. Yeah. And you are kicking that off. What movie are we talking about?
We're going to talk about Gone Girl.
Because we've essentially made adaptations just opens us up to talking about the rest of our favorite movies.
Yeah. By the time this month is over, I'll have talked about my top 4 favorite on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
On this show.
If we have enough time and we get a rival in there, we'll have covered your top 4. And right now, my top 4 on Letterboxd are Paddington, which we've already talked about. We have Little Women, which we've already talked about. Oh, Paddington 2 is off of my favorites list. I forgot I took it off.
Oh my gosh.
I replaced it with Arrival.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Honor. Okay. Huh.
Now, I'm not saying that I necessarily like Arrival more than Paddington 2. It's just like, I feel like it's a more diverse thing to have in there, you know?
Okay. But Ben, the brand.
Look, I love a lot of movies. I love a lot of movies. So, yeah, right now I have Sing Street, which isn't an adaptation. I have Little Women, which is an adaptation we've already talked about. Then there's Arrival, which is an adaptation. And then there's Princess Bride, which is an adaptation. So we could very easily end up talking about all of our favorite movies and cover both of you and I's 4.
Perfect. Love to see it.
We love to see it. Chloe, if people have liked this complaint/adoration laden episode and want to hear more of our opinions on many things, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere. That's on Instagram. That's Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd. I stream on Twitch. I'm on Echo Clo everywhere. And hey, if you're listening to this on release day, I'm streaming tomorrow at Land of Uncharted 4. Watch me cry over Rafe.
Now, Chloe, today we talked about Avatar: The Last Airbender, a TV show, an animated TV show. If people want to hear you talk about another animated TV show, where could they listen to that?
You can find that on Uppercut's channel. Those are friends over at Uppercut. We are doing a whole week this week just talking about Clone Wars. We went through every season.
And by we do mean you.
I mean me.
And Uppercut, not us.
No, this is just me. Ben's not there. Don't worry about it.
I just don't want people to get there and be disappointed when I'm not there. Obviously, I'm the star of this show. You definitely have no online fan base. No one gives a shit about you.
No.
Your Twitch numbers are so low, it's almost embarrassing, frankly. I know your dream is to make a Twitch partner, but you'll never get enough views for that.
Exactly. All of those things.
I really hope the sarcasm's laden enough in this for the audience that they can tell I'm being sarcastic. Like, I know you know. But I'm just imagining someone listening to this and being like, wow, Ben's being a dick to Chloe.
He's just so mean to me, guys. It's horrible. Get me out of here. But yes, anyways, go listen to Uppercut. We're talking about the Clone Wars seasons. It's great.
I'm excited. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to get around to it.
They're really fun. You'll enjoy it.
Great. Love to hear that. People can find me at Mr. Bentobox everywhere, which is still a very fun thing for me to say. On Twitter, on Instagram, on Letterboxd, on TikTok. And that's the majority of where I exist. If you've liked this podcast, you can rate us and review us on iTunes. You can subscribe to us on whichever platform you prefer. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. You get the gist. You can also support That Nerdy Site, the website that we are under on Patreon. Going to patreon.com/thatnerdysite to give some money if you can. If you can't, perfectly all right. You can also go to thatnerdysite.com and just check out other things going on the website. There are reviews being written. There are features being written. There are other podcasts that Chloe and I are not on, but other people are on, and they talk about things.
Great time.
And now we enter the void, empty and become wind.